slingshot season. Hey, let's run it. Hey, hey, hey. Grace hit me like boom, can't miss. No, God with me, whole squad gon' win. Devil try to throw shade, I grin 'cause the light too bright where I've been.
To Slingshot Nation, everybody, thank you for being here. We are live here in the studio. Derek, how you doing, man?
Woo! Good, man. I'm
Good?
excited to be here. Yeah,
Yes.
let's go.
Jack, how you doing?
I am good. I just showed her. I'm like dealing with a whole bunch of stuff here.
Jack's frazzled. Well, since Jack already did it, we have a guest here in studio, Nick. Nick, how you doing, man?
Living the dream, brother.
Living the dream?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the way this all kind of came together, we've never had an in-studio guest for Slingshot Nation, which is a new live show we do every week, or we try to do every week. And Slingshot Nation normally is just, you know, me, Jack, and Derek talking about maybe current events or something that's on our mind topically for, you know, the platform that we have. And we're not great at times at like running the schedule perfectly. And this week we have a lot going on this week. We're about to head out of town tomorrow, and we're looking at the schedule and we're like, okay, we got an in-studio guest on Thursday and we got an in-studio guest on Friday. When are we going to have time to do the Slingshot Nation, guys? And we were trying to juggle some things yesterday. And I was like, I think we're going to do a combo, and we're going to do Slingshot Nation meets the confessionals.
Yeah.
And so I was very grateful, Nick, that you were open to coming in still and being part of the live version of my show. And so it's good. It's good. Because if you said no, I've been like, well, now we're in trouble. But anyways, I'm glad everybody's here, all four of us today. And I'm glad everybody's doing well. Listen, this week that we have going on with my show particularly is obviously heavily focused on Jeffrey Epstein and the Epstein files. And I got to tell people, because I know and this message won't reach the entire audience, so I understand that. But for whoever is viewing this and listening, to understand that we are living out sometimes supernatural things. And one of the things that we are doing is sometimes we'll reschedule something that was supposed to go out. And for whatever reasons, we do the reschedule. Well, the episode with Hope on Tuesday was supposed to go, I believe, in December, the beginning of December, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And if you watch that on YouTube, you probably saw at some point there was a notification that something was cut out. Well, we had to go through that episode with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that the channel didn't get nuked. If you want the whole unedited, uncensored version, that's available on the Rumble channel and on our X account. At T Confessionals on X is the whole version of that is, you know, uncensored. But we put it on the schedule well in advance so that we knew we had time to go through it. And we put it on for this week. And it just so happens that the Epstein files just blew up in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever it's been. And it was timing. And so it's something that we often notice with the show. And we've been just calling it God's timing, you know, because a lot of times we'll just drop a show that perfect timing, but it wasn't planned, and that was this week. And today's member episode is another victim. Again, it's just the way the schedule worked. Her and I had canceled like 2 or 3 times.
Wow.
We couldn't make the schedules work. Then it just worked where I recorded with her this Monday. And so like, it's wild.
Yeah.
Just for my own clarity of mind, this is my ADHD kicking in. I just got to know. So I'm going to ask Jack a question. Did you actually have a chance to turn off that feature on the browser to keep it from lagging?
Yes.
Okay, because I thought I saw myself lagging, and it was going to bother me if I didn't ask. And so I just had to ask because, and our guest here, Nick, he knows about it too. His brain and my brain are very similar. So I just had to ask, or else I was thinking about it the whole time. So with that said, we were originally planning on doing a live this week, talking and probably going through the Epstein stuff deeper than what we're going to do today, and maybe in the future, not next week because we'll be out of town too, but the following week, maybe we can do that. You guys were coaching me on it, and basically we came to the understanding that when we talk about it, Derek's going to lead most of it. Jack's going to bounce off Derek, and you both are going to handcuff me from saying things that are going to get the channel nuked, right?
That's
what's
the
gonna happen.
plan. Yeah, that's what we're going to try to have.
Because some of the things I was saying yesterday at the office were not good for YouTube. But I think the humans watching would relate greatly, but apparently I can't say these things. Read between the line, folks.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
but what I want to do is I want to go through 2, possibly 3 Instagram videos that I had. One I had saw just this morning that I think have a roundabout correlation to the Epstein stuff, and maybe not in the most traditional way. So if you watched the show from Tuesday, Hope, her testimony is not what you would believe the mainstream media would tell you, right? So the mainstream media has been trying to frame Epstein as somebody who was basically the head of the snake, operating mostly alone, and he was just a sick, perverted man that liked younger people. And the reality is that is true, but he was not the head of the snake. There is a whole operation still happening. It was like, imagine losing a tire on your car, you put the spare on. That's basically what happened with Epstein. And it was darker. It was satanic. There was very dark rituals going on with victims. This stems into some very dark, nefarious things that the mainstream media just simply isn't equipped to handle. I don't think that, I don't think they would handle it, but they're not equipped to handle it because they don't understand it. I barely understand it. So the first clip, unless you guys do you guys have any thoughts and stuff before we get into the clips though? I'd like to let you guys share, Jack or Derek, if you have anything you want to preface before we get into some of this stuff.
I mean, just the whole Beryl Green episode was just so incredible. I mean, her exposing, again, like you said, the satanic and spiritual side to this, because we question how evil people can be and why they could be so evil. And I think adding the spiritual component to it is really important, I think, in understanding what is really occurring.
Yeah. Jack, you got anything?
Yeah. So we had what was it? 2 episodes right this week that were about this topic, and honestly, surprisingly, both lined up so similarly in their accounts of what they experienced and what they believe. I think that there's a lot more at play when we talk about these hybrid beings and these reptilians and this DNA manipulation. If you don't take that seriously, and if you don't believe that stuff, or if you think that it's out there and that they're not really doing it, I encourage you to listen to these people. I encourage you to listen to what they're saying, and what these elites or these people who are doing this nefarious, disgusting things to these people, to these victims. I encourage you to listen to what they say and understand that even in the emails and the things that we've talked about, that they are actively seeking out manipulation of their DNA to figure out how they can become either Nephilim or live forever or whatever. There's a lot to it, but anyway, there was just an awesome, concurrence or congruence with those 2 episodes. I thought was really interesting.
It's God's timing, man. It's God's timing. And even last night, I believe I've wrapped up my book. I feel like I've finished writing my book last night.
Awesome.
And I believe it's the second to last chapter. I actually wind up writing a little bit about this Epstein stuff, because I do believe it plays into other things like disclosure. And I just hit on it a little bit. I probably could have written half a book on it, but it's tied into a lot. And so I think people just have to understand that when it comes to this Epstein saga, none of us know everything. The moment we feel like we have a good handle on it, we probably don't. And if you have a hard time with reality checks, you probably shouldn't even bother looking at the Epstein files. And honestly, I think I shared this with you, Derek, the other day.
You did, yeah.
Angela, what's her last name? Scafidi.
Yeah.
I can't pronounce her name. I'm sorry, Angela. She's gonna be here in studio in a couple weeks, and I'll ask her how to pronounce her last name. But she made a video talking about how she started diving into the Epstein files, and the Holy Spirit told her, "Don't do that right now." And she made a video talking about how we have to guard ourselves and our spirits from some darkness, right? And I think there's truth to that. I'm not telling people not to look at it, but to do it responsibly. You know, it's like, do you sit down in front of the TV and watch a billion horror movies in a row? Well, maybe some people do. I don't even touch it, right? Because I'm guarding myself. There's certain things with that stuff that's spiritual that I can't touch. And so just in that same sense that where you have to kind of guard your mind from certain things, know the limits that you have when it comes to the Epstein files, because it's very dark and sometimes you're going to need to come out of that rabbit hole and just breathe some fresh air. Let's get into the Ruslan video that came up on Instagram today. It's kind of more lighthearted, but I think it has things to do with the DNA manipulation, to be honest with you. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on the connection between what's being said about the God of the Old Testament and what was going on back then with what it maybe happened today with DNA manipulation, and why the two aren't that far apart.
I'm excited. Let's hear it. Yeah, let's see it.
Amazing.
Crazy.
Okay. So this says, see how both Christians and non-Christians say the Epstein files helped them realize why Old Testament God did what he did to so many people?
That's crazy.
24,000 likes. I've considered sending up a few prayers like, hey, I know you've committed to love and charity, but can we have Hood God back for like a year or two? It also shows why God warned against trusting the rich. And now I want to stop hearing about the Amalekites from atheists and non-Christians. The book of Revelation is God warning us he will not hold back. Me waiting as I encourage God.
All these Jonahs up here.
With the poo shiesty on.
These Jonahs up here just sitting back waiting for it to be destroyed.
This is amazing. The evil described Revelation doesn't seem that unrealistic anymore. This one is...
Yeah, so I mean, two things right there. I might need to steal that phrase too. All these Jonahs up in here, because that's kind of how I feel about this. You know, I just want to sit back and be like, God, just kill him. Just kill him. Like, just, was that the wrong thing to say? That's what I'm saying. I can't lead these conversations. But like, and then like when they said, can we get Hood God back for 2 years? It's like, but you know, the human side of you kind of wants to see that justification and stuff. But Derek, what are your thoughts on the idea that maybe, because in the beginning in studio here, Jack didn't have the audio turned up all the way. He was mentioning how the people on the post were saying how they're starting to understand why the Old Testament God was the Old Testament, the way he was. And it brought, I think they even brought up the Amalekites. And it's like, I think the context that was being given on the video is that, oh, these people were so dark, so evil, God had to wipe them off the planet. And it's like, yeah, there was more to it. These weren't just people. And so do you see a correlation between the idea of the hybrid shenanigans happening in the Old Testament and why God had to wipe out these hybrids to what we're seeing today? And do you think that could possibly lead to Hood God returning?
Well, I said this in the group chat and I thought it was so great. It was Isaiah 2:12, and it says, "For the Lord of heaven's armies has a day of reckoning." And I'm like, oh yes, that's what I needed, that verse, because I felt the same like anger towards the sin, towards the evil of what we're dealing with. It's such an abomination to God's creation. Yeah. I mean, we see that with Nimrod becoming a Nephilim after, in like abominating like his own genetics after the flood, right? And so we know that this is like in the secret realm of the secret societies and the cults, like this is what they're continuing to do and continuing to pursue. It's how they can empower themselves through these demonic forces and even become like gods. That's the goal. So I 100%, I think it's all linked together. I mean, like we talk about adrenochrome, we talk about like all these things that we thought were super fringe and super crazy. And
Don't say that word again, please.
10-4. And
are we still live? Okay. I'm still operating off of 2020 YouTube standards.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was
I'm
flagged.
glad that just happened. You did it, not me. Because now I know.
No, you know. But so I mean, we know that they are in pursuit for greater spiritual growth, greater spiritual powers, and all of this is just used by the enemy to destroy his creation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I was saying very similar things yesterday when I was writing all this down. There's a very much of a parallel between this and becoming gods and the original sin and the original. Well, when I say original sin, I meant the Garden of Eden. But if you want to be technical, I think Satan was the original sin with pride and how the rebellion to heaven. You know, but so. There's that Ruslan clip that I thought, okay, we can kind of maybe open with a little bit and kind of get the conversation going along that route. Now, you take what we just laid out, you know, the idea that there are people waking up to, you know, Old Testament God, and you know, maybe he had something, maybe he understood something. No, maybe he's an infinite being, maybe he understood something that your finite mind couldn't understand.
Yeah.
But the aspect of the DNA manipulation and the dark, nefarious stuff that is happening that we're not technically supposed to know about, but there is a reckoning coming. There is information coming out, and I have my thoughts as to why and why now and how and all that stuff, and we'll say that for another show. But I also sent Jack an Instagram reel. A former guest, Isaiah Robin, he started talking, or he shared a video talking about him talking about Nicki Minaj and what she's been doing online. I don't know if you've been following Nick,
No,
but
my wife briefed me on it, and that's enough.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. So like, see, you're practicing that wisdom that I was just talking about. But she, I guess, what's that big award ceremony that just happened recently?
The Grammys.
Was it
Grammys.
Grammys?
Grammys, yeah.
Okay, yeah. There was all this stuff that happened there, like always, but they called Nicki Minaj out for not being there, and they're like, you know, I guess teasing her, and so she took exception to that and went to X and started just blasting, and she basically saying like, you know, why don't you talk to me about Jay-Z? Maybe I have some things to say about Jay-Z and all that stuff, and Isaiah Robin covered that, so let's get into that video.
Nicki Minaj stirred up a pot last night. She started calling Jay-Z out for satanic, ritualistic things. Oh, it got real. Let's just read some of the things she said. Are y'all understanding that these people have been sacrificing children as a way of gaining and maintaining power? If you ever vote Democrat again, you're just as soulless as they are and will perish. Maybe it's time for me to do some story times, since I was trying to not say what I know, yet they continue to attempt bullying. Guys, it gets no more blatant than that. But in case you still don't know what she was saying, let's go to another tweet. She put, your favorite artist, so not just Jay-Z, your favorite artist, has been practicing rituals in a satanic cult where they take babies from other countries and mutilate and unalive them as a form of blood sacrifice to their god. My Lord. You see, when your master is Satan, you must constantly shed blood. However, the jig is up. Guys, do you know how wicked this is? Not only that, but this is stuff that many of us have known for years, and the world called us crazy. Now somebody who was fully in the world, coming out of the world, is exposing it. Oh, it looks a little different now, don't it? We've been talking about this since Jay-Z wore a sweater with the #1 satanic commandment on it. Do what thou wilt. Do what you want. We've been talking about this since Jay-Z's song, State of Empire, where he said, Hail Mary to the city, you're a virgin, and Jesus can't save you. This is his lyrics. Jesus can't save you. Life starts when the church ends. Jay-Z said that. He put it in a song so you couldn't even really hear it. How many of us were in the world singing the State of Empire? New York! One of the biggest songs in New York, and this was in the doggone 3rd verse. Can you believe that? A mainstream song where a rapper said Jesus can't save you in it. Nobody heard that before, though, have they? No, not until we started speaking up about it. So he wore a sweater with the #1 satanic commandment on it. He has a verse where he says Jesus can't save you. Let's not get into his other verses. We got a song called Family Feud where he says he told his wife the spiritual stuff really works. Well, if he's saying Jesus can't save you, and then in another song he says the spiritual stuff really works, what spiritual stuff do you think he's talking about? It's not rocket science, people. There's also a picture of him in the Masonic Lounge. Heck, we've been talking about this since he made a video with Marina Abramovic. And don't get me started on Marina Abramovic with her spirit cooking where she takes blood and wipes it all on the wall, making different words with blood. I mean, this video might get banned off these social platforms because we're getting too real right now.
Take it off mine. I didn't hear that originally. I didn't know.
He didn't make it all the way to the end of the clip.
We shall see. We thought Hope was going to get us banned. It turns out it's just my stupidity.
It's just our live on a Friday. Oh, man.
But, I mean, so even Marina Abramovich, that whole thing, I mean, a lot of stuff that he just talked about is old news, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's one thing that you're going to start seeing is that the stuff that we talked about for a long time, I guarantee I've talked about in the teens, 2017, 18, 19, are going to start recirculating. And that happens a lot with a lot of different topics. They go through cycles and they're going to be coming up. But if they come up now with the attention with the Epstein stuff and there's an awakening happening with that, there will be a real surge towards truth and what is actually happening, I hope. But I will say this, that though that happens, head on swivel, because there will be a deception coming that will be intentionally placed in the scheme of time of 2026 to take what's happening now. They're giving you information, and then they're going to take something that's even bigger so that it can cover that like it's going right under the carpet. And so just head on swivel, because that is coming. You think you're like, if anybody's kind of like coming to this understanding and realization now, like, oh no, like there's world elites and they're dark and nefarious and they're doing evil things. If you're just coming into that now, I promise you, you're going to be on overload by the end of this year. By December comes, you're going to be like, can we just worship Jesus for his
Absolutely.
birth?
I mean, they're illusionists, and that's what it is. It's like, look at the left hand while the right hand's actually making all the stuff happen in the background.
Right.
And then before you know it, you're looking at the right hand and you're like, what happened to the left hand? You're not even paying attention. And it's exactly
That's a great
what
example.
magic is. I mean, like, that's what they're going to do. They're going to make something that will appear, like you said, bigger, scarier, a common enemy. This is what they always use in political tactics: create a common enemy so that people can unite, like put their walls down and then go attack something.
Yeah.
Because they're scared.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen.
The Marina Abramovich picture that he showed, there's this, and he mentioned about spirit cooking. I don't know if you've ever looked into that, Nick, but we won't get into defining it right now because I honestly don't know if I'm allowed to or not. But
obviously, I'm not going to help you not get flagged.
Yeah, please,
so.
please. Okay?
Yeah.
Let me be my own doom. But the one video that was out years ago of what she would call art, she was using blood to paint on the wall. And, you know, honestly, like the way things are shaken out, I mean, I got to question what kind of blood, right? But from what I understand,
They already know what kind of blood. It's crazy, actually.
bovine.
Mixed with other blood.
Yes, that's right. I was going to bring up the bovine blood, but I do remember there's other bodily fluids
Naturally
that were in
occurring
there.
bodily fluids.
And but that's the kind of stuff. I mean, like it's like if you want to take it into like a Disney terminology for our finite little minds to understand that don't really dabble in this stuff, it's like she made a concoction potion and she was smearing it on the wall in a ritual. And you know, you see Jay-Z standing there in love with her, and I mean, he's not the only one. Lady Gaga, so many celebrities. It just shows you these little things over the years that we've seen, and we're pointing at, like, doesn't anybody else find this weird? And all the normies are like, oh, you know, that's fine, you know, it's nothing. You're being over dramatic. And now with the Epstein files, my hope is that they revisit all this stuff that they called people crazy for, and just look at it with an open mind with what they know now. And say, maybe. Like, I don't feel comfortable saying, yeah, definitely. But between the Epstein files, these witness testimonies of the dark satanic stuff that they claim they've been through under the control of Epstein and his network, maybe reality is not what I thought it was.
Yeah. And sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so like with Marina Abramovich and like Jeffrey Epstein, coupled with the witness statements and other people's stories that we've heard throughout the years, like Zach King and others, where they say that there are multiple people in those roles that do those things, like Zach King being the satanic high wizard. There are many people like that that aren't the face of it. You know, I would say Marina Abramovich is one of those people who's a face of that. But how many other people are there that do that stuff, that practice those things with those celebrities that people love and adore? And the same thing goes for what I think it was either Hope or Audra that mentioned it on our show about there being more people out there that do this, and it's not just Jeffrey Epstein. Like that's the reality is there's multiple people doing this, multiple people possessed to do that.
We often think, oh, well, this is the head of the snake, or is this one person, this one evil person? Listen, nobody's a lone wolf. Marina Abramovich is not acting alone, or else she'd be bored, you know? And like Marina Abramovich isn't even Aleister Crowley, who visually, when you look back at history, you're like, oh, he seemed like he was a loner. Kind of, but not really. I mean, he was very much into building up his network.
He knew a lot of people. He was connected.
Lots. I mean, I don't want to spoil a documentary coming out, but there is a documentary coming out with our good friend Joel, who he went in this deep dive and he traveled the country uncovering things. And so, like, when we look back at Aleister Crowley, we consider him almost like a lone wolf. He's the main subject of the story, the plot, just like maybe Marina Abramovich is. But when you just start pulling back the layers, you see how many people were connected. And I'm just convinced that there are no lone wolves, and mostly because if you're a lone wolf and you're doing this stuff, it ain't working then. And then what's the point? You're wasting your time.
Yeah, I mean, he was just a teacher in like the New York City area. Right. And then
Crowley?
Epstein.
Oh, Epstein.
Sorry, Epstein. And then all of a sudden he's like this multimillionaire doing huge financial things. And it's like, you know, they're puppets to the puppet master, you know, and so they just cut the strings when the puppet's not performing the way it needs to, or too much of his attention is on it. And like we look at like the royal crown and how it's tied to Andrew and like all this other stuff, like it goes way up, way up. And I don't even think we even scratch the surface, nor will we ever know, because they won't let us know.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like you have to understand that you're only consuming information and understanding based on what you've been allowed to see and know. And there will always, I don't want to say always, because there is a day of reckoning coming, and not by the hand of man. But for the most part, you're always going to be living in an environment where there's going to be some group over you, people over you, person over you that is controlling what you're allowed to see and know. And so it's a reality check for a lot of people. This Epstein file stuff coming out, the episodes that we had this week, it's paradigm shifting, and people are just starting to wake up to realize that the world that they thought they knew, the world that they thought they lived in, the rules and regulations they thought they were abiding by, is not what others were abiding by. And you're living in basically the upside down at some point.
It's hard to comprehend the level of deception that's been occurring for the decades, the level of like satanic undertone. I mean, if you think of even like the Old Testament, kind of bringing it back biblically, like this is why he didn't want them to mix with the Amalekites, the Canaanites, the Philistines, and all this, is because these are the kind of practices that they did.
Yeah.
You know, they went to the sacred groves and they did horrendous things to each other, and they spilled blood, and they did all that kind of stuff because this is how spiritual power was gained in those things. And nothing is new. It's like we talked about last week. Nothing's new. This is just a retreading, a reemergence of things that we've already, I think, seen biblically.
Yeah, I agree. And so with that said, that's a little bit of Epstein stuff that I wanted to go a lot further on it, but we might do it another week. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of stuff coming out still.
I think Jack needs to coach us a little bit better before.
One thing I worry about with Epstein is what people are going to do with the information. It seems like people are under some sort of spell almost, like to read these government documents that claim there are people drinking the blood of children, and to see people. I live among the normies. I mean, I'm in the grind, and to even talk about it, people look at you like you don't believe that. Like they don't actually believe the stuff. That's all conspiracy to them, and it's frustrating at times. Like in the movie Independence Day, when the president came on the television and told everybody they were here, well, it was hysteria. People were running around. We've had congressional hearing after congressional hearing, and then all these Epstein files. But it seems like if you talk about it, you're still the one that's a little crazy.
No, I absolutely agree. And since we're talking about stories and crazy, I think is a good point to shift to you.
Yes.
And not that you're crazy, but you got you got experience that made you feel probably that you were crazy.
I've embraced my craziness over the years. It's I wear it with a badge of honor these days.
Yeah. So I want to lay some groundwork here for people. I think I saved some of these images earlier this morning because I wanted to be able to just pull them up here. But you reached out to me on Instagram, and you had said, "Oh, you know what? It looks like I didn't." I think Jack, I sent them to the computer over there. Look and see if there's clips on the downloads of just snippets of the text messages between him and me, like little tiny snippets, and just airdrop them to me. But you had said that you reached out and you had said that you had gone through an experience, and you had just discovered, I guess, me through my appearance on Ninjas Are Butterflies. So I had gone down there, and this is some of the things that I wanted to kind of read to the audience so that because I often go into conversations with people about their experiences very green. I get an email from somebody, and they come on the show, and we have a conversation about their experience. And like I was coaching you earlier and stuff, I said, don't tell me that. Let's wait till we're going. But with you, there's even more of a gray area coming into today. But I felt like an impression to invite you here. And you said this story includes a light in the sky, missing time, a huge bipedal something, owls that sound like chimpanzees, been there, my friend, a screaming banshee, telepathy, and more. I have access to the property this took place on. It is adjacent to a property owned by TVA that has always been forbidden to enter and still is. With that said, like, we can always sneak on. My story is still kind of unfolding. Very strange. I'm just kidding live.
I was about to bleep,
kidding.
like bleep.
My story is still kind of unfolding. Very strange synchronicities daily. It has dark moments that are terrifying, and it has bright moments that are full of joy. I had never considered that what I encountered could have been a Dogman until I heard the story on your podcast. Whatever it was that I encountered is never too far from me. I tend to believe that I could be used for bait. And reading that,
Yeah, I forgot what I sent you. I was like, wow. Yeah.
So
I went a little,
but
yeah.
no, I clipped that. It wasn't that wasn't all in one message. Those are 3 different messages that I clipped because you had said other things.
Kind of proud of the way I described it, though.
But yeah, I mean I wanted to kind of warm the audience up with that because that's what I know going into today's conversation. It sounds to me like you had a lot of things happen in an experience that traditionally, and so you're talking about synchronicities. Just last night, as I was finishing up this book, I was talking about this very thing. The fact that there are so many categories that people in our minds want to box things in so that if it feels right, as right as it can, it makes as much sense as possible. But when you realize that you're pretty much looking through different windows of the same house, it can be paradigm shifting.
Yes.
And before we get into what you experienced in Kentucky, because I want you to tell people as much information as possible of what the experience was and where it happened, at least generally. You don't have to go into great details, especially since apparently you're not allowed on the property. But what was your, before you get into that though, what was your understanding and maybe even interest in these types of topics? Was it like off your radar, or was it something that you always kind of gave credibility to?
Outwardly, it is something that I've always been interested in and talked about. I like to tell stories, and the realm of like everything from Bigfoot, UFOs, ghosts, anything paranormal fascinated me as a child. I like to do sleight of hand magic, and there are people that are going to hear this and not be shocked that I had an encounter. It's almost like it's kind of poetic in a sense that it happened to me, because it's like, a fear of mine is actually see a Bigfoot, because I'm just going to sound crazy. And if I'm at a cocktail party and somebody starts talking about Bigfoot, I'm not going to not tell my story,
Yeah.
and I've always liked to make people laugh. So there are people that are going to hear this and like, he's really cooked up a good one this time. But my wife says I need to write a book called The Boy Who Cried Wolf, because I don't know what I believed, to be honest with you. I like to talk about it, but I don't know if I believed any of it. And I struggled believing in anything the same way I struggled believing in God, which is nothing I've really ever admitted to not believing in, but nothing that I felt comfortable enough, like if gun to my head, do you believe or don't you? Are we worm food, or is there something else? I was a materialist. I just could not wrap my head around it. Like, you're telling me somebody died and was tortured to death and came back to life. Like, are you sure about that, or is that a metaphor? I was okay with the Christian religion because of Jesus. What he said was beautiful and worked, and I believed, but I don't know if I really believed in the literalness, if that's even a word. But that's when that burden was taken away from me. When you see something that you can't, or you experience or even feel something that you just never thought possible, it seemed like it opened my mind up a little bit. And it caught the attention of other things that I didn't realize were real. And it's been pretty eye-opening, and trying to manage that while still live a life that requires me a lot. I work a lot of hours. I commute a lot. I have a beautiful wife, 2 beautiful children. My oldest, River, she's my ginger baby. And then I've got a blonde hair, blue-eyed son named Rogan. Picked the name Rogan. It's a good, strong name. It's Celtic for a red-haired man. But to be honest with you, at the time in my life has gone, it's changed. Like every aspect of my life changes in like 10-year increments. And how I got out of a real dark one, I was on SSRIs and had burnt out at my job, and I was about 80 to 100 pounds heavier. My wife and I didn't really have, our first 5 years of marriage, we didn't have kids or anything, but we didn't really do anything with it. We were kind of homebodies, watched our shows, and didn't do anything with it. And there wasn't a whole lot of spirit there. And then people asked me, "Do you name your son after Joe Rogan?" I did, kind of.
Sorry, Tony.
Yeah. So, but it was because the people that he had cultivated and put in front of me taught things that I was able to utilize and to actually change my life and to live healthier and to think and consider other ideas a little more. The long, drawn-out conversations gave me the chance for my mind to be changed. And because I was one of the first episodes I listened to him, I made the decision to get off SSRIs. But I didn't do enough research in how to do that, and went cold turkey, which never a good idea. You're not supposed to do. But it ended up being one of the best decisions I could have possibly made, and I had no choice but to learn to live in the present, the right now, and got in shape, lit a new flame in my marriage, and kind of everything about me changed from there. So I felt, name him after him.
What was that first event then for you that you mentioned?
And can you pull your mic a little closer to you? You can
First
just pull the mic
event as
to
far as
you.
paranormal.
Yeah, like the first thing that kind of like shifted your paradigm away from a materialistic vantage point.
Was it in the woods that day?
Well, before that, not too long, about maybe a month before that, there was something else. I had I got home from work. I felt defeated. I was tired. It was 10 o'clock at night, and I'd been at work since 8:30 that morning, and negotiating, with facing rejection and then arguing with people essentially throughout the day, and then trying not to make mistakes that are consequential, cost people money and time. And get home at 10 o'clock, my wife says, I've lost my phone, because I'd wondered why she hadn't responded to my text. I said, what do you mean you've lost your phone? She's like, I can't find it anywhere. We lived in a kind of a high-end apartment place that had pool and weight rooms, spas and everything. She said, I think I left it down there. Well, I said, good thing is we share a location, not to be psycho or stalker, just because we're in a family unit. Sometimes you just got to know where they're all at, and comes real handy in Disney. But I tracked her phone, and it said that it was currently downtown Knoxville under a bridge. So I said, here it is. I'm going to go get it. I drive down there, and there was a homeless camp. And I'm smart enough to know that I'm an idiot, essentially. And I had a 9mm and the brightest LED flashlight you've ever seen. And I thought, here I am going down there to this homeless encampment. And one thing I know is I got to make it home to my babies. And if it looks like somebody's going to make a move on me, they're going to die tonight. And I really don't want to kill nobody over a phone. So I decided to call the police and tell them kind of what was going on. And like, hey, somebody's got my phone down here in this group of people. I don't want to blaze up in there asking for it. And then, could be somebody with mental illness or something, and they come at me, and then I'm put in a weird spot to where I got to make a decision that I can't undo. And but I'm not leaving without my phone. And they came, and they said, "Hey, you stay here. We're gonna go check it out." And I don't remember if they were city or state. It doesn't matter. I don't want to incriminate nobody. These guys hopefully aren't in that line of work anymore. But they came, told me, we're going to go find your phone. You stay here. Don't move. Okay. They leave, and about 10 minutes later, these two lovely ladies came out that I could have talked to them for hours. How can I describe somebody and still be politically correct? They didn't look like me in any sense of the word. And they had warned me that wasn't the best neighborhood for me to be hanging out in. They're like, what are you doing here, sweetie? And I told them, and I was like, I can't leave without my wife's phone. I've got too much going on in my life. Like, I can't afford a new phone. I just need to get my phone. And they were like, well, if you ain't leaving, we're going to stay with you. And there was so much chaos going on at that point in my life and I felt kind of lonely and abandoned. It's just a dark time. Nothing that's lingering or anything, and nothing caused by the typical stuff like any bad habits or infidelity or nothing like that, just life. And I decided to have somebody to talk to, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to talk. Like, I feel like I bundle it up in me and can't get it out without a captive audience. So what I would do is I would call the hotline, Theo Vaughn's podcast hotline. And it's like 3-minute increments. And I told him early on, hey, I don't know if I want you to go live with this. I just need somebody to talk to. And I probably have called 300 times and have 3-minute increments. I've never heard anything from or anything like that, but it did help. And a lot of that is probably sometimes it was recording in the background, like when I was talking to these ladies. Like I would talk to the hotline, and then they come up and talk to me. So it caught some of it. I'd be interesting to see what it caught, but kind of wacky. You know, that's why the guys at work, I'm the crazy one, no matter where I work, because I do stuff like that. I call Theo Von's hotline 300 times. That sounds psycho when you say it like that.
It's free therapy, man.
Under a bridge in Knoxville
basically,
at
we
3 o'clock
have
in the morning.
in common. We have the Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, it helped me at a great point in my life. You know, it was a great tool that I was able to utilize to turn my life around at one point. And he understands the concept of a sponsor. So I said early on, hey, you're kind of like my sponsor. Your hotline is, you know.
Wow.
And but about 3 a.m., you know, I've got to work the next morning. You know, I've got to get up at 5:30, and it's 3 a.m. And these guys, I mean, I started this process around 10 o'clock. And so this lady says, maybe you want to call them and you check on them. So I called dispatch, and the guy's like, what's the issue? And I told him, he said, let me put you on hold. And he had me on hold for like 3 minutes. And then he clicked back over, but forgot to like calm down his laughing, basically. Like, so I said, well, they find my phone. He said, they've got better stuff to do and solve actual crimes than be out looking for your phone all night. And basically hung up on me.
Huh.
And it was 3 a.m. I'd been sitting there all night. I just wanted my phone. And then what was still true was I didn't want to kill some homeless person over it. So I went home. Just felt defeated. And just tried to get an hour or so of sleep and get up and get back in the grind again. And I'm on my way to work, and I get a message from somebody that had been in town visiting. And they live in North Carolina. And they called and said, hey, I've got your wife's phone here. She dropped it in my van. And I noticed it last night when we got back home to North Carolina that it was in the van the whole time. And I said, that can't be true. According to my device, Find Me, it's under a bridge, and I pulled it up, and it was still showing there. And the thing is, it didn't say yesterday's date on it, last seen. It was still showing that it was coming from there at that very moment. Now, I couldn't really wrap my head around what happened or why. I thought, well, maybe she crossed that bridge and there was some kind of glitch in it or something. But later that evening, my mother called, and I told her what all I had going on, and she goes, what bridge was it under? And I told her the name of the bridge, and she said, that's the bridge that they found your Uncle Wayne under. So I'm going to get a drink of water.
No, you're fine.
I had an Uncle Wayne that in the 70s and 80s apparently was some sort of phenom and was going pro, and my grandfather had him training with like Sandy Koufax and all these famous major leaguers. They lived in Sarasota, Florida, or maybe Jacksonville in the 60s and 70s because he was in the Navy. That's my grandfather, Fred, who was in the Navy, retired Navy, and I don't know much about that. I've looked at a few of his old Navy pictures, but he was Cherokee, and he didn't talk about it. It was almost like he didn't want to talk about it, but it never come up. But my mother looks Cherokee. You know, I would say that my grandfather's at least half, if not more. You know, the skin, everything. So on my dad's side, he's half Italian, half Irish, basically. My mom's side's half Cherokee, half Irish. I got all Irish, and my brother got like a mix of Italian and Cherokee. So when I stand with my family, we look alike feature-wise, with just like different shades. Like somebody's playing with the contrast and the tint.
Somebody's a stepkid here.
Yeah. And, but anyway, he was one of the statistics. He was supposed to play in the major leagues and pitch for, I think, the Detroit Tigers. He had a 100-mile-an-hour left-hand fastball and world-famous knuckleballs and everything, and was famous. He was a big star as a kid. And when he and his friends went out for a night on the town to celebrate, he he didn't do drugs or anything like that. And because he was now going to be a famous major leaguer, they bought some drugs, and he had a trip that he never came back from. So my life, he was kind of my wacky uncle Wayne that was saying stuff that the parents say, don't pay any attention to him.
Oh, there goes some water.
Felt safe around him, but party foul.
Yeah.
But I loved him. I thought he was interesting because he would say things talking about the things that we're talking about right now, And so my parents and grandparents would say, don't pay any attention to anything he says. But he couldn't be managed after that. After he had schizophrenia, basically. It was early onset schizophrenia. I've learned now that they've located the gene for schizophrenia, but large doses of psychedelics can trigger it early onset, and that's what happened to him. But he later in his life, here's an interesting bit about him.
So we should probably get to the story in the woods though, because
yeah.
Because I don't want to go too far into.
Yeah, you have to steer me.
Yeah,
anybody that knows me is watching
so that's
this.
Why I'm telling you now, because I want to get into this because I know you said that you have a lot of questions as to how to even understand the experience. So I want to get into if you can start laying out what actually happened during that experience, so that we can maybe help. One, we can hear it and understand it, but also maybe help you understand it more importantly, because that's what you mentioned before, that you'd like to kind of have an understanding.
Being is that I was in ontological shock during all of this time, and I try to make heads or tails out of things that you never fully believed, and then you don't have the choice but to. Now it's a knowing. You've seen it, and what I do with it, I think you fellas can help me manage that. And because to a lot of people, everyone else in my life, it's crazy. Like the things that I'm saying, a lot of people that I care a lot about, they just don't believe. And for once, without airing out all my dirty laundry on air, I was just at a point in my life to where, not because of anything sinful or anything, I was losing consistently. Things were perfect, great, friends, church, everything, smooth, easy selling life. And then it got real hard, real quick, and things kept piling onto it. Like I broke my foot, like in a way, everything's very dramatic. I ran out to chase my family out the door. She was pulling off to take them to school. I was barefoot. It was dead of winter, and I take off in a dead sprint and kick a concrete curb. It rips my toenail off, pushed my toe back into my foot, and kind of blew out the side. And I watched them drive off, and I'm laying there bleeding out. And I went in and got my bug out bag, cleaned it up, had local anesthesia you have in a bug out bag, numbed it up, wrapped it up, went to Goodwill, bought a boot, and just went to work, because at this point in my life, it was always something. Woke up one morning, my wife's car got stolen. And every day was something new. And now I realize that that's just what it took. I was beaten down by life. I had to make a tough decision that the people in my life didn't even know they didn't believe me that I'd been faced with the decision. It was either I sacrificed myself or I had the choice of sacrificing them. And I sacrificed myself, even though, without saying too much, I didn't get anything for it immediately but pain. I had to leave my life. Everything changed, the dynamic with my kids and wife, and had to leave a well-paying, well into the mid-six-figure job to now load everything up like the Grinch who stole Christmas in a 1999 Nissan Frontier, just all the stuff I could pack in that truck, and move back to the property that I grew up on, that I swore I'd never return to, that it was like I just didn't want to be back on a patch of earth that I was a different me on, and I'm not proud of the me I was on it, you know. And I took off. I left the job. I accepted the new one. Everything looked like it was going to be. At first, I had a nice home, literally on the same block as the #1 school in the entire state of Kentucky. So at first, the offer was made to me. I took it, but at the same time, I'd already made the decision to quit my job, because if I didn't, the man who had pulled me out of the gutter at one point, you know, they kind of asked me, what would happen to you if we let him go? And he had shoehorned me in there. You know, this was the only friend I had several times in my life. He never enabled anything I did in my past, but he has pulled me out of the gutter. One time I told him, early 2000s, I just called him and said, man, if I don't get out of here, I'm going to die. And, you know, me and everyone I knew got caught up in the opioid epidemic. I didn't know anybody that didn't get bit by that monster, you know. My high school teachers and friends' parents and people in church, everybody got it. I was wrapped up in that, and he flew me out. He got me out of there. He took me to Tucson, Arizona, had a job waiting on me and stuff. So at this point, they asked me what it would mean for me, which I knew what that meant. I talked to him about it. The conversation didn't go great, almost like he didn't believe me, like I was trying to manipulate him in some way, which was a little disappointing to me. But then this other man offered me a dream job. It was so divine. Like, it blew my mind how divine this was, and made me an offer. Told me I had several weeks to show up, and he'd start paying me immediately as soon as I gave him basically the guarantee that I was coming. And then I found this house a mile away or a block away from this beautiful school, and everything's a go. And then when it came down to actually going, the weeks you have to before you have to be here turned into, can you be here Saturday at 7 a.m.? You know, a couple days away. I've got to move, and you know, my wife was not in a great place at this point in her life. You know, she was dealing with a lot of guilt. My wife has had my life and childhood is charmed and blessed compared to her. She has faced things that I couldn't imagine. You know, and I used to think that my childhood, because I was poor, was rough, but looking back on it now, it was a fairy tale compared, because I didn't know I was poor. Everyone was. So, you know, there was no comparison to it.
So were you like at your new property when all this begins to happen for you?
I was in Knoxville when things started lining up. So that was almost like a synchronicity. And the phone thing happened, and then the guy called and offered me the job. Like, how did he even get my number? He offered me this job, and then to find out that somebody else that I bumped into had a home, and it just so happens to be a block away from the #1 school, if you Google it, in Kentucky. So I thought, this is God. There's no other way. Too many things are lining up for me to not have to deal with the situation with my friend, and because I'm making the right decision, God has given me a house, a school, a job. Everything's waiting on me. And then I take off. I've got to be there Saturday, so I'm frantically on my way to Kentucky. Haven't moved to the house yet, so when I land, I'm going to my parents' house. And my grandparents, who are no longer with us, they're deceased. They have a house next door to them. A couple stone throws away, maybe a quarter, eighth of a mile or something away on the same mountaintop. And push came to shove, I can stay there. But we go to my parents' house, and the night that I got there, I had all of my stuff in this little beater truck, and dead broke. I mean, everything in my life, like the vehicle got stolen, and then the rental car they gave us got repossessed somehow. They came and got it in the middle of the night with all of our stuff in it, because there was a misunderstanding about when it was due that I thought I took care of and didn't. So it was just chaos. I'm heading to Kentucky. It's almost 4 a.m. and I notice I'm out of gas, and I've got to make it to my parents' house and then somehow make it to work the next morning. And I don't know what I'm going to do. and I stopped at the 24-hour, they call it the Big Chicken store there in Barberville, Kentucky, and got 73 cents worth of fuel. And that's all I could get. And then I headed toward my parents' house. And the next thing I remember after that, I'm sitting in my truck. It's sunny outside. My truck's running. The tank is full. The heat is on. And I'm just looking around waiting. And my phone rings, and I answer it, and it's my new boss who explains to me, I'm landing the chopper. Be there in a minute. Okay, he lands, he introduces me to everybody, and it was clear they didn't know I was coming. I mean, talk about feeling set up. I was still confused about how did I get gas? I didn't know anybody there to ask, to pick their brain. My wife's asleep. Who do I talk to? Okay, where did I put all of my stuff? Where's all my stuff that was in the back of the truck? I just was trying to just focus on what was in front of me, and he takes me and introduces me to everybody and basically says, hey, this is Nick. He's a new manager. Here's what he's going to do, and here's what he's able to do. And it was clear to me, no one knew I was coming, and everybody felt like me showing up there meant one of them was about to leave. So they just scattered, and would not, you can tell when you're around people and they're like, the fact that you're here has upset their entire life. Now they've got to be worried. So I wasn't making any friends. I am wacky, kooky. You never know what's going to come out of my mouth. So I'm trying to make friends with these people who see me as a threat, and didn't go over well. So my first night after work, I go home, I walk through the door at my parents' house, and my mother is not doing well. She carries an oxygen tank, has a hard time breathing, and I love my mother. She has several struggles. I'll say that. She has a lot of health struggles. But when I got there, I learned that the house that I wanted fell through. It wasn't happening. I'm going to be here for a while at my parents' house, and it didn't feel like I was as welcomed as I would have imagined that I would be. And also at the same time, almost like a nervous tick, if left alone for any given moment, I felt like I had to be in the woods. As soon as I got to my parents' house, said my hellos and everything, and then I went outside and started building a tree house. I just worked all day. My first day of work, barely had any sleep. Don't know what happened between, 4 a.m. and, 7 a.m. But for some reason, I start building the tree house, and I go all in. I am out there sweating. It's a blizzard hit. So there's
so it's not summertime.
no, there's 2 foot of snow. And I didn't feel welcome in my parents' house, but my wife and kids were in there safe. I had a terrible first day at work. I have some missing time. I've got me a good fire going out there. And at this time, I love camping, hiking, and love outdoors. I've got all kinds of gear and stuff. So I'm out there building. Quickly, within a couple hours, I have a platform built up on the side of a tree with some posts. Oh, I'm sorry. And I've got a fire just roaring, and I'm hammering away with this axe and cutting these posts and everything when I hear an owl. And it's normal sounding owl, nothing crazy, nothing out of the ordinary. And I had my AirPods in, and I was listening to the podcast about the gentleman we talked about earlier, his story. So I was in a frame of mind where I was considering things I hadn't considered previously that I would have dismissed that a person said. And I was soaking it in, and it was fascinating me how someone could have an encounter like that. And the owl started getting louder and louder, and it started moving toward me. It started about 50 yards away, and got within, it's within 15 yards of me now. And I can see it plainly. And it doesn't look like a normal owl. It is massive. Like, no way to try to describe it without sounding crazy, but it is black, like almost purple when the light hit it in some spots. Big yellow eyes, but it's a hoot owl, and I'd known of a hoot owl to be up there my entire life. You could go outside at night and you could hear a hoot owl hoot. I'd never seen it, so I was seeing it for the first time. When it moved, started closing the distance on the 15-yard line, forward, it got aggressive. It started getting louder and more frequent, and it turned into what I can only describe as a chimpanzee. So loud, the volume was so impressive and loud. It's just constant, like a chimpanzee. And it is, fascinating. I start digging for my phone. Here's the thing about having encounters like this. This sounds like somebody that was lying. This sounds like something they'd say. I get my phone out. I got to get a video of this. I've never heard a bird make this sound this loud. Hit record, back to a normal hoot. So that's funny. That's the way it's supposed to happen to me. Not going to let me get any evidence of this. So, I tried, I set my phone down for like 10 minutes, hoping it would do it again. It never would do it again. I put my phone back in my pocket and just went back to work on the treehouse. And I'm just thinking about everything I've got going on in my life. Like, my parents didn't feel like they want me in their house. It's a blizzard. I'm working a new job. For some reason, it's after midnight, and I'm building a treehouse out here in the snow. And now I've got this owl messing with me, and I still don't know what happened to me last night. And when this owl got so close to me that it started freaking me out, it's probably within under 10 yards, another one lets off a crazy sound that's hard to describe, followed by chimpanzee sounds. And I look at it, and it looks like an invert of the other one. Like, it's black and almost purple. I'm going to get a drink. I'm sorry. And, when somebody looks at you and they're mean mugging you, I'm not saying this thing looked evil, to try to sensationalize it, but it's like you could tell looking at its face that it wasn't there for anything good.
Yeah.
The other one was a light colored one, not white or anything like that. And it seemed like they had a little conversation back and forth, and then the darker one took off. Well, that was enough to kind of freak me out a little bit. And I went in talking to my wife about, you're not going to believe what these sounds these owls made. And it was crazy. They sound like monkeys. So I go in my parents' house and go to bed. And I go to bed. I usually fall asleep listening to a podcast or a book or something. I wake up the next morning to get ready, and I just pinched it. There was one still in my ear, so I was like, cool. So I just pinched it to see where it would play, and the algorithm was just whatever it played, I just let it go. I didn't recognize any of the voices that I listened to, and I didn't know where my phone was at, so I wasn't going to find it to look. I needed to get ready for work. It's like day 2 of this job where everybody hates me, and I'm exhausted, and I've got bloody knuckles and muddy fingernails and everything because I'm like an idiot. Instead of getting sleep, something called me to the woods to build a tree house. And to my wife, it looked like I was losing it. I mean, coming apart at the seams. In a sense, I was. But that day at work, the second day was equal to or more than just horrifying. Like high school levels, stuff I didn't understand. People talking about me, and it just didn't feel like a loving environment. And I came home from work again, no desire to go in and eat dinner, talk to anybody. I am thinking about getting in the woods and getting started on that fire again in that treehouse, almost like I couldn't help it. I go put on my coveralls, get dressed. My son wants to go with me. We take off toward the woods. We're talking about what we're going to do on the treehouse. And as soon as I hit the tree line, I stop and I'm overwhelmed with a crippling fear. Every hair on me stood up and I got nauseous. And I stopped my son. I was like, hey, hang on a minute. Not tonight. Well, he seemed disappointed. I've been putting them through so much with the move, pulling them away from their friends or anything. I didn't want to disappoint them any more than I already had. So I said, fine, let's go work on the treehouse. And I tried to move forward, and I got sicker with every step I took. And this is the part of the story where I kind of shifted. I wanted to talk to a professional after this. I told my son, hey, I think there's coyotes out tonight, and I don't want you to get eaten or anything like that. So let's just listen to Daddy's gut, and you go inside. And I kind of scared him more than I like to get him to go in without fighting me. He goes in, and I sit and pace out in the front yard, like pumping myself up, like, you grew up in these woods. There's nothing in these woods that's gonna hurt you. Now, side story, but within 5 yards of where I'm building this treehouse, when I was 17 years old, I found out that this piece of property was the site of some sort of burial site. And there was a local man and a friend of the family who believed that one of his ancestors was buried back there and wanted to know if he could go through our property in order to, I guess, exhume, is that the proper term? But it never came to be. Like, they talked about it and everything, but there's no way to get to this piece of property without going through my parents' living room, basically. Either you're going to cross a mountain or you're going to drive up to my parents' front door and walk from there. So there's no way for people to get in there and out without them at least knowing about it. And you on their back deck, you're standing on the back deck. You look straight across, you can see where I'm building the treehouse. But in between there is this big, deep valley. And there's a road that goes around from the house to the treehouse I'm building. You have this valley down here. So, I pace around and I finally get the courage I'm just going to run to the treehouse. And I get up to a sprint and running, and it immediately, as soon as I got into the woods, nausea put me on my knees. And then I heard someone say, go back. For the first time, I heard something without the use of my ears. I felt like it was in my head. And I listened to that immediately, and I went straight to my wife and I said, I need you to make me an appointment. I think I've pushed myself too hard, too much. I've been going without enough sleep. I've been working too much. I've been carrying too much on me. I think I just need a break. And I told her what happened. My wife had went through a little spell to where she smoked cigarettes. She wasn't proud of it, but not all day, every day, but she always had one hid somewhere that she would run off and, maybe once or twice a week, or when we got in an argument and the chaos as everything kind of got taken down. And we go on my parents' back deck, and we're sitting there talking about that feeling, how I felt, and how weird it was to hear something in my head that a thought that wasn't mine almost. And then we hear a big, like, limbs breaking and a big thud, followed by clearly something with two legs breaking sticks. And with each step, we're like pulling each other in. We're like, oh no, like we're about to see it. There's nobody would have just showed up out there. And who do we know that big that can sound like that when they walk? And it walked, and by the time it stopped, we were squeezing each other like death grip. But it didn't make sense. We couldn't see anything. With the sound that it made, we should be looking at something. It should be right there. Yeah. And it's not there. And like looking at it like a dog looking at a gate. Like,
yes.
It doesn't make sense. But we like ran in terrified, told my parents about it, and they were like, "You're crazy. You've been out too late. You've been working too hard. You ain't been getting enough sleep. You've not been drinking enough water." And which is funny because I was so afraid of being nervous, and when I get nervous, I get dry mouth. So I drank so much water so that wouldn't happen. About 10 seconds before we went live, I had the urge to. It's like, but that's how my story goes. It has to. There's always another element to make life a little bit harder, because when my fight or flight is on, that's when the gold comes. That's when God gives me the best, most useful information. It's in the struggle and the grind and the suffering of it. So that's why I've always got a good attitude and always got a smile on my face, because it's like, oh, my foot's broke, my car got stolen. My headlight, I remember one night my headlights just went out going down the interstate. It was, the house thing fell apart. My brother, I love my brother also, but I was not planning on having a roommate at the time because he was staying somewhere. I read between the lines on this. He had free room and board elsewhere. And me and my brother chose two different paths on life. And one day I get home from work, and my wife let me know that he no longer had that living arrangement and would be living with us, me and my wife and children. Here I went from this beautiful home at one point in Missouri and nice house on a cul-de-sac to I'm living in a house that may be haunted by my grandparents that were tortured to death. And now my brother has gotten out, and he is going to be staying with us, and he has friends that have one my hallway wearing one shoe and had a pit bull on a log chain. Can you imagine coming out in the middle of the night to go to the restroom, and that's your new reality? Some stranger, streetwalker.
Yeah.
Like the contrast and the suffering I feel like, is what initiated all this and made something respond to me and show up out there. So that night happened, and we were terrified. We went inside, and let me just make sure I stay, because the order does kind of matter. So I call that the invisible Bigfoot, even though I never felt like it was a Bigfoot, or anything like that. I hate even using that term, Sasquatch or Bigfoot, because I don't want to be dismissed, because I'm somebody that did not believe in any of this. I was basically agnostic in that I didn't believe in anything I couldn't measure. I believed that Christianity was a good idea, and I thought it had good points, but that next morning, let's see, we're on day 2. The next morning, the podcast that was playing in my head was, when I got up and squeezed the AirPod, was ended up being called the eerie connection between owls and UFOs. So I had the encounter, the experience, and then when I squoze, that's not a real word. My wife just told me yesterday, squoze is not a word. But
Hear that, wife? He's listening to you.
Yeah. When I turned it on, it was playing a podcast that it felt like a synchronicity to me. But actually, I'm getting my timeline a little. That didn't happen until the discovery of what I'm about to tell you now. So the next night I get home from work, and I think I told myself that I could get control of whatever was happening to me, that I wasn't going to end up crazy like some of my family had, that I was going to go into the woods because I'm a grown up and there ain't no such thing as the boogeyman and nothing's going to get me. I'm just going to go build the treehouse for my son. So I get off work. I put on my coveralls. I march in there into the woods. Everything's going good. I'm like singing out loud. I've got some Tool playing in my AirPods, and I get my fire going, and I get it roaring, and it's a good one, and it's some pine trees and stuff, so it like had this scent in the air, and huge, and they're popping and sizzling, and I got this giant flame going, and I pour some fuel on it, and I start climbing the treehouse, and I climb up onto this base that I've built, and when I push myself up and turned around like that, as though something had my face in its mouth. It screamed a banshee squeal that sent me into a state of panic. I froze and I could see ripples in the reality around me, like waves, like it was distorting something. There's some sort of distortion around me, and it was screaming, and it was like a blood-curdling, piercing scream. I don't really, like a banshee screaming that went for like 7 seconds, and then I fell onto the treehouse, scrambled to get my phone, and called my wife, crying like a baby, in the fetal position, terrified, would not move. I told her, get my 9mm and get out here, get me, please come get me. And she came with an umbrella.
To be fair, a 9mm might not have done anything anyways.
Yeah, well, it wasn't, I didn't know.
Might as well do an umbrella.
Something to make, 9mm.
So you were climbing the tree. I'm just trying to visualize this really well. So you're going up the tree to the tree house, and then you felt like you were pushing through something, or
no. So when I stood up and turned around, that would have put my face. I wasn't up in a tree. It was a platform built up in lower level. So my face was probably at 12 feet maybe, and whatever this was, I felt like was standing on the ground beside the treehouse, level its mouth with my face, is what it felt like. There's some giant invisible, and the way the thing walking sounded too. Whatever that thing was big and heavy. The thing we never got to see, but now I've got this thing screaming in my face, and when she comes and gets me and helps me down out of the treehouse, she says, "Nick, you're right. You need help. I can't live like this no more. This is crazy. Why are you even out here? Why aren't you spending time with your kid? Why are you trying to build a treehouse in a blizzard the same week you started a new job that isn't going great? What is wrong with you?" And I don't know, honey. I've lost it all. Everything that I built, I've just watched it crumble apart over, since COVID. When it started. I'm not blaming COVID. Actually, if I have a time machine, the first stop I'm going to is, COVID 2020, because I got to stay home for 3 months with pay. I got to know my kids. It was magical to me, I loved it. But after that, the contrast. And so she's walking me inside, and my dad says, he stops, says, "Hey, what are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean, Dad?" And he said, "You're going to get the law called, okay? People's going to think somebody's getting hurt over here." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Screaming like that." And then she said, "You heard that?" And he said, "How can I not hear that? How did you not hear it?" And I said, "Dad, that wasn't me." "Nick, you can be honest. Are you on drugs?" And I said, "Dad, I know I'm suspect for that, because I never, I tell people when I go into work, I'm going to talk a lot. I'm going to say some things that are probably going to be crazy sounding to you. I have loads of energy, and I'm nicer than people expect someone to be to a stranger. It puts off that meth energy is what I'm not on. I've never seen it, but I put off the energy. And it's like I don't act at all like I did at one point in my life, but at one point in my life, I had nothing to live for. Now I had everything to live for. Now I had got to stay alive. I've got 2 beautiful children and a wife that have their own struggles, and I have to finance all this and be a part of it and fix things, everything that breaks. And for whatever reason, I entered into a point in my life to where everything broke. I broke both of my feet, both of my hands, the vehicle situation, all these relationship things just coming apart. And the people that I worked with, they were exhausted. Like they wanted to know what's going to happen now, because in hindsight, it became funny. For instance, one night my daughter had a sleepover. Can we have a sleepover? Yeah, great. But I was kind of grumpy at this point because I was burning the candle at both ends, just working, driving. And so I let her have a sleepover, and about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, I heard a big thud. What that thud was, have you ever been in a hotel that has the locks around the top of the doors where they latch over? Whenever you forget that thing's latched and you grab it and try to go out the door, it will shake the foundation sometimes on a house. Well, that happened at my front door, and I recognized what the sound was and just tried to go back to sleep and not be mad and say, keep it down. I didn't want to be that guy, but I couldn't go back to sleep because the way my brain works, what if that was an intruder? I have to go check on them now. There's no question. I have to go check on them. So I go to check on them, and I go to my daughter's, I go to where my wife is supposed to be. I'm sleeping. She's staying up, sleeping on the couch in the living room so that she can be available for the little girls if they need anything. And you know, I have strict rules about sleepovers and stuff like that. I don't want to be left in a room alone with anybody ever, you know, a female or, you know, a kid or anything like that. I just, Billy Graham, I always liked his view on stuff like that. He's never been alone with another woman in an elevator. So we put safeguards up, stuff like that. We've had a few friends that, like, the unimaginable happened, you know, and just to be safe. And, excuse me. What, I lost my train of thought. What was
Your dad said, "Are you on drugs?" And then you got to the sleepover. So
Yeah, there was a thud at the door.
Yeah, there was a thud at the door. So I go to check. My wife's not where she's supposed to be. And I go to my daughter's room, and nobody's in there. And then I remembered, oh, yeah, they said they were going to build forts in the basement because they wanted to be around the rabbits. We had these cute little bunnies in cages in the basement. And I go down to the basement, which has a garage door that goes out. I go down to the basement. First of all, the door I heard thud was wide open. Not shut. I mean, it was wide open, no screen door or anything. So my front door is wide open. Nobody's around. I go down to the basement. The garage door is open. Nobody's around. And there is blood squirt and splatter wall to wall. All in the carpet, all over the sofa. There's blood everywhere. So in my mind, somebody just came and murdered my family. Little did I know, the little girls were playing with one of the rabbits, and I had one of those big sectional couches that had reclining on it and was electrical. It weighed a metric ton. You know, you plug it up and it reclines and everything. One of those rabbits got up in that couch, and the little girls decided the best way to get that bunny out is to pick up this big, giant, heavy couch, a bunch of 7-year-olds, and move it. And what they ended up doing was cutting the two front, feet, hands, I guess, off the rabbit, which sent it running all over the basement, squirting blood. Wow. But in my mind here, I got to get up and go to work, and then I hear a loud noise, and I go to check on my family, and there's blood you know, for a moment in time, like, the unimaginable happened. I've been tricked like that. Like, so many times I've been both relieved and let down. Just 2 months ago, the lottery numbers that I picked didn't hit, but they hit the very next week. And I got my tickets confused and got to live for about 2 hours thinking that I was literally worth $100 million.
You wouldn't have been here.
I got to experience what I called relatives. I cried. We talked about what we were going to do and how, and then I looked at the dates on the tickets. So it's like I set myself up like that sometimes. But also at the same time, what are the odds that it would hit when it was supposed to hit? But isn't it even more crazy that it hit the very next week? Yeah. That seems like somebody's designing
games
this.
With you. That's what it sounds like.
And that's when I started realizing that all these things happening to me weren't happening to me, and I wasn't a victim. This was just part of the way everything was playing out, and if I paid attention, that I could see it for what it was. And I've learned to have gratitude for all the things in my life. The relationship, like my friend I talked about earlier, we're still best friends. Like, and we've talked about all this stuff, what it felt like to me at the time, what it was like for me at this time. And I've essentially, this whole process has made me grow up. But to get back on,
we're back in the basement. Yep.
No, we're not in the basement.
We're not in the
Now
basement? Where Dad asked him about the sound that he heard screaming in the forest.
We're on the mountain in Artemis. So my wife, she makes an appointment for me, still, but now I knew I wasn't crazy. I heard something. He heard it. I heard it.
Yeah.
And that night I went in, and my daughter said, "Daddy, make a video." She always wants to do, like, whether it be a trick or tell a joke, and have me make a video of it. So I went to make a video of her, and she, I couldn't because there was no storage left on the phone. So I said, "Hang on, sweetie, I've got to delete some stuff." And I started looking for stuff that I'd recently recorded and picking it to delete it. First as a photo, I looked at it and I don't even know what that is, some kind of light anomaly. So I deleted it. And the next one was a video. And so I hit play. And it was of the missing time that I had the night that I showed up there. So like I got 73 cents in fuel and then took off wondering, how am I going to get to work the next day? And then I find a video of what happened in that time, because I didn't remember anything. And it was just a light in the sky that it's real hard to describe what it is. I sent it to him. It looks as though something's really close to the lens because the ground that it covers in such a short amount of time, it doesn't make sense at all. And but it was in the wide open sky. I know the layout of that, and it wasn't near the lens. And at the end of the video, it kind of blurs. And if you play it in slow motion, it looks like it sucks and zooms straight to me as I drop the phone and the video ends. And I have no memory of making that video whatsoever. So people immediately said, "Well, Nick, you were just tired." Have we met? I'm always tired, but if I see what I would describe as a UFO, I would wake you up in the middle of the night. I would shake you out of your bed and tell you about it. I wasn't buying that I was so tired that I forgot that I not only saw a light in the sky, but I forgot I made a video of it. So when I show it to my wife, she says, "Well, this text makes sense." "What text?" And she sends me a screenshot of where I had previously texted her. It's all time stamped at 4:00 in the morning. It said "looking at UFO." So that means that the video that is not an accidental, anomaly. Like I knew I was looking at something and was aware enough to make a video of it, but had no memory of doing it. And the feeling that it made me feel was much like when my house got broke into. Like, it felt weird. It felt dirty, felt violated. Like just going back in my daughter's room after knowing a burglar came in here and went through her things, touched everything. It's like very disgusting feeling. I felt the same way, but at the same time, I'm not the guy that can go around telling people that I got abducted, and that's what people like my dad thought I was insinuating. I'm like, does this not look like it kind of zooms toward me? And don't you find it weird that I can't remember any of this? So then they would say, "Nick, you need to talk to somebody." I mean, full blown, you think you got abducted, you are crazy. And I offered to them any other explanation. I don't believe I was abducted. I don't even want to say that I believe that one can be abducted, but I just want somebody to tell me why I made this video and don't remember making it. I'll accept anything.
Did you, at any point in time from the time that you discovered the video to now, remember anything in that missing time period?
Yes. I made a note here in hindsight. And if I seem a little bit nervous, I've been terrified about this now since I found out we were going to do this, and the way that we met through me hearing your part of the story that's so similar to mine, where something didn't make sense that you couldn't see it.
Yeah.
It was hard for me to describe that to somebody, but then when I heard you, it was like somebody else can understand what that means. But I've been told not to talk about this so much that I guess talking about it in this setting in front of so many people, it is terrifying to me that I'm still in the battle. I'm still working the crazy hours on the grind, just trying to keep it together and keep my family together. And, I read a survey about 3 weeks ago that said, had my position on it, and it said, your manager is insane. My boss read that to me, that a customer. So, I'm on eggshells because, I fell for the bait. You think you're having a like-minded conversation with somebody, and they tell you something about something they saw on TV, and the next thing you know, you're like, hey, you want to hear something crazy? See this video? I don't remember recording that. Next thing you know, you're in an office with suits, and with your job title and what you do there, you're supposed to be seen in a certain light, a certain way, and hold yourself in a certain way. And that doesn't exactly go well with the part. So dealing with that and being on here today without sounding unbelievable and crazy, it kept me awake. Actually, last night, me and my wife stayed up all night, so we haven't been to bed yet, just going over, talking about what it was like for her during this time, because, she felt helpless. She couldn't do anything. And she thought she was losing her husband to mental health. And now to be able to be together still on the come up, everything's coming together. It's these synchronicities have switched from dark to light. Now I'm being introduced to people like yourself that can help me understand these things. Now I'm seeing how this never was about aliens or that God is real. The whole spiritual realm now is real to me. It opened me up to where I can fully, instead of worrying about, do I really believe in God? Because at first I had to believe in the idea, or even that it was possible for things to exist that you can't measure, taste, touch, feel, and that there's more to this reality than and all this stuff. None of it's new. You haven't heard anything about, whether it be Epstein, anything I'm saying, any story that you hear out there. We've been hearing it all of our lives, but we've been hearing that it was crazy. So keeping a professional career together and having these experiences that can't be explained, while also living in chaos. My hours, it's tiring to a lot of people, the amount that I work, and that so much around me seems to fall apart. But don't let me drag on about that. But if you can name it, in the last 3 years, it's happened to me. And it's been hard for some people to watch, but the fact that I'm sitting with you guys here talking about it is kind of another synchronicity for me. But so I want to talk more about the there's supposedly some movie out where someone was a psychiatrist in Alaska and a bunch of people went missing and there's owls involved. Are y'all familiar with what I'm talking about? So they made a movie, Mila Jovovich, or I can't say her name.
The Fourth Kind.
The Fourth Kind. So I have that experience with the Scream. I find the video and I go to work. That day at work, they decided, or they hired a new guy. Turned out I knew this guy from my past, and me and him were buddies, so it was great. Now I've got somebody to talk to. I'm in this crazy world where I'm driving this POS truck, and I'm working in a position at a place to where I'm not supposed to even be driving a POS. Like, I'm supposed to look, act, sound a certain way, and I'm not checking any of the boxes. And it doesn't look like I'm gaining any fans either doing it. And he tells me about that, the Fourth Kind episode or is it a movie?
Movie, yeah.
Sent me the trailer, and it just sent me into shock and terror, thinking that I couldn't even watch the movie, just knowing that something happened to these people and nobody's ever heard from them again. And it started with owls stalking them. And this property that my parents lives on, if I return to it, the owls always show up within 30 or 45 minutes. But I moved an hour and a half away to Morristown. And when I'm outside more than 4 or 5 hours, they show up in Morristown. So some people...
You're saying the owls?
The owls will. Yeah, they followed me. So I moved and they came with. And I didn't believe that, but I had said that just putting a friend together, basically, just being entertaining. And I'm like, yeah, they showed up there. Friend comes over one night. We hang out talking about UFOs. We were talking about how people are doing these watch parties and how we're unsure if that's dangerous or not, or what are you inviting into your yard, when you do that. And I apologized at the end of the night, like, sorry you didn't see anything exciting. And I said, when I first walked out here, I saw something back that way. And when I pointed, they looked the direction I pointed and all their mouths opened up like they were in awe. And here come the huge, the dark colored one. And it had all the signs. It was the same owl. But the piece of property that all this happened on, I forgot. I get sidetracked very easily. Number one, because you guys are listening perfectly, and I'm not used to being able to talk about these sort of things. And you guys are listening, and I'm used to having to chase, like my wife, bless her heart. When I go on a rant, I'll chase her around the house and talk to her, in her ear just to get it off my chest. But
you mentioned the grandparents, that they were like tortured or something.
Yes.
At that property?
At that property. So my grandfather took care of this property so well. He manicured it around the clock, and it was beautiful. Well, he got dementia. My grandmother got dementia, and then some family members said that they were going to take care of them, moved in with them, and did not take care of them, took their money, and would lock my grandmother in the bathroom for 6 and 8 weeks, I found out. And that the claw marks on the bathroom wall, my mother told me that she did that, trying to get out, my grandmother. And they passed while I lived out in Missouri. Oh, sorry. I didn't know any of this.
Turn it up.
Yeah. I didn't know any of this went on. I'm just in Missouri. The thing I liked about moving from Kentucky to Missouri is because I went out there and I was able to be whoever I wanted to be. Nobody out there ever knew I had any kind of problems or issues. I could just start over, and I got connected with a great church and a great pastor. And like the first time I say pastor, like pasture, like a cow pasture. So probably going to get on some people's nerves. Yeah. So it was just wonderful out there. I became a father out there and a husband out there, and got tied in with this church. And, like the first time I heard this guy preach, there was like 20 people there. Within a year, he's doing 2 600 people services every Sunday. It just exploded. And he reminds me a lot of you. He's bald, got the beard and everything. And he was a backup dancer for I think Chris Brown, and so he could dance, and it was a real
Definitely not me.
Definitely not Tony.
It was cool, to see the look on kids' faces when he would take off a flat brim hat and do this crazy moves and stuff with it. It was fun to watch. But to go from that life to now, I'm living in a house that feels like my grandparents were tortured to death in it, And
so it's a dark house. And so you have these sequences of things. So you have missing time. You see the owls, right?
Yeah.
Then you're going into the woods. You feel drawn to build this thing in the middle of a blizzard. You're having these sickness things occurring.
Yeah, and with this experience that you had, if I remember correctly, the first thing that happened as you experienced was the unusual owl activity, right?
Yeah. Well, the thing I experienced but didn't know it was the light in the sky. I just hadn't realized it yet.
Right, but
I
that wasn't
found
on the
video.
property.
Yeah, well, that happened on that property.
Wait, the missing time happened on the property?
Yeah, so I got the fuel, got 73 cents in fuel, and took off to my parents' house. And then, and in hindsight, I remembered pulling onto the gravel road that is the driveway that goes up there. I kind of remember doing that, and after I found the video, a couple weeks after I found the video, I can remember thinking, did something just peekaboo with me? Like I was on the asphalt going down the blacktop, and you could just, there's a railroad track on this side and a line of trees on this side and trees on the railroad track. So all I could see was the line that where the asphalt road cut out in the trees. The only little bit of sky I had was like a slot. And it looked like in my peripheral that something white, like a dot, just went boom, boom, like in a way that didn't make sense. I saw it in my peripheral. And in hindsight, I remembered seeing that. But as far as I knew, I just pulled up on that hill that night and went inside. But the video is, I got out of my truck. I parked at my parents' house. I assumed the load ended up being at my grandparents' house, which is, a quarter mile before my parents' house. So I apparently dropped a load of stuff there in a storage shed, and then went to my parents' house. And from what I can gather from the video, I got out of my truck. I don't know if I was already witnessing it driving, but the video didn't start until I'm out of the truck, standing beside of it, up like that. And then I'm holding the phone up, and then it ends with me dropping it down and to the left. And I have no memory of it, but apparently I sent a text to my wife saying that I was looking at a UFO.
And that was the trigger event.
Yeah. That was the ontological shock when I saw it. Not when I recorded it, but when I saw that something happened. I don't know what it was. I don't know but I had some sort of encounter with something that I couldn't understand.
Right. And so you have that experience, and then what follows is the owls then.
Yes.
Okay.
The next night, the owls.
What I'm trying to do is understand the sequence of events, because if you take your initial experience, light in the sky, I'll say, for lack of ability to define it properly at this moment, your potential abduction experience. Okay.
Yeah.
You have missing time, so a missing time experience. The next thing that happens is the owls.
Yep.
We don't know. All we have for the first part is your vantage point of what happened, which is a missing time experience. So right there, we don't have a full picture. And all we know is the picture you're able to portray to us is what you shared. We don't know if owls were present there or not.
Yeah. Correct.
I ran and looked at an old episode I did with a guy named Mike Cleland, who's like the owl whisperer. He's it's probably who you were listening to. When
was it called The Eerie Connection Between UFOs and Owls? Was that the name of the episode?
Not mine, but it was probably Mike who.
Yeah, who it was.
Yeah, he's often he's the go-to guy with owls.
Yeah,
he's the owl guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he ended up being the only person I could find that had anything to say about it whatsoever.
Well, he's got a lot to say about it, and one thing I want to bring up a couple of things here. One. Owls can be used. They're a symbol or a place marker for a screen memory. Okay, so you have missing time. Could of what you remember be a screen memory? I don't know, but I'm just going to read a couple things here to you that I think might apply possibly to this situation. With screen memories, owls can be a mental placeholder for something more intense. Like you remember a giant owl, but the claim is that the real encounter was a non-human entity. So sometimes people will experience things where, so say me and Derek are out on a night hike and we both experienced something, but I'm like, dude, did you see that owl that was like 5 feet tall? And you're like, that wasn't an owl, that was a gray, And it's like, he's found that oftentimes owls are placeholders for something else that was actually there. So your bizarre experiences with owls might, not saying it is, but it might possibly be some kind of placeholder for something that actually was happening there that it didn't want you to see. So, and this is something that happens a lot for people. I don't want to say a lot, like this happens all the time, but like I've heard that people will go through an experience, they go through the same exact experience, but they walk away describing something very differently. And so there's that aspect, but also, and this is this is where my mind's kind of going with things. Owls can often be they're looked at as like messengers between realms, and they're like the trigger for what is coming. And so I want to read this to you as well. Owls can be present, the thing that goes between worlds, or I'm sorry, owls can represent the thing that goes in between worlds. So when someone is near a high charged event, so you're on this property, the history of the property, the burials on the property, the experiences that you're having on the property, I would say that could be a high charged event.
Yeah.
So when someone is near a high charged event, the owl is like a marker that something crossed over or is communication is happening or about to happen. And so when you have the owls in the first initial experience getting closer to you and the hooting, and then it turns into the chimpanzee, there's a shift there. And you know, because this is why you reached out to me, I experienced that myself in the woods. And what followed for me was, well, actually, there's a precursor, which is interesting in itself too. So when you think about my experience, anybody who doesn't know, I'll just real briefly go over it. I was in the woods, and it was about 2:00 in the morning. I had gotten really sick walking into the area, to the point that it brought me to my knees, and I had to take a break. While we were there, we had something pacing bipedally in the woods behind us, or not in front of us. And we couldn't see it. We could hear it. Kind of like you and your wife. You could hear the bipedal.
Yeah.
And, you know, she heard that with you too. So you guys hear this together. For us, it was me and Joel. Whatever it was, charged us. And that's why I could finish your sentence. It should be right there.
Yeah.
Because when we hit the lights, it should have been right there, and it wasn't. But for us, though, the owl stuff happened after that incident. So if you're taking this description, which would be near a high charged event, the owl is like a marker that something crossed over or communication is happening. In my experience, there was physical communication. I just couldn't see it. And maybe if it's something crossed over, could have been that what happened to me, whatever that thing was, crossed back over to wherever it came from. And that was the owl marker moment. So for you, you have this owl experience. And if I remember correctly, outside the owl the first time, there was nothing else that night, right? It was just the weird owl stuff.
I felt like I was leaving something out there that night, but that I recall the first night, it was just the fact that they were acting so strange, and it was clear to me that they were talking to each other, and then one of them won the debate, and the more aggressive original one took off and left one there.
Did they look different?
Yes.
And one was light and one was dark,
One
right?
was light, but I don't want it to seem like, oh, one was a pure white one. And the
Oh,
other
yeah,
one,
no.
But it was a lighter shade, and the other one was a dark.
How big were they?
No kidding. Just like breastplate alone, I would say that just the breast, is that the right term for it?
The chest area?
Yeah, because they don't really have a neck or anything, but from the table, like that. I mean, huge. Not.
So that's like 2.5 feet.
I got a picture on my phone of something that happened across my Facebook reels just the other day that I told my wife, I said, that's it.
Well, yeah, while you're looking for that, Jack, why don't you look up and see, start looking around to see how big the biggest owl in the world can get. So the largest breed of owl, look it up and see what the official size is.
It's far smaller.
I know it is. I
Yeah.
just wanted
The
him to
great
look it
horned
up.
owl?
Yeah.
Because I think last time
Because I
looked it
did
up-
that too. I'm
Yeah.
like, that ain't right. That was like. So I looked at it and like, well, what should be in the area? That thing should have been like that.
Yeah.
And this thing looked like Big Bird sitting up there.
Yeah.
Like, didn't make sense at all.
Quick, while you're looking for that, where was the location of the treehouse you were building? Was it over the burial area?
Yes, it was. It was 5 feet away or 5 yards away from the grave. Did I say anything about the missing body?
No.
Oh,
All right. So moving forward, if I feel like you're going in a different direction than I don't want it to go, I'm just going to bring you back because you apparently skipped something very important.
yeah. I did. So when I was younger, I found out about this graveyard back there. Somebody may want to exhume somebody. So when a friend came to visit my buddy, we were 17, 18 years old, and I told him about the graveyard. And he said, let's go look and see if we can find like any Civil War stuff, maybe worth some money. And we go back there, and there's a perfect hole. Somebody took a body, but it got weird. They took the dirt with them. There were no shovel marks. There were no footprints. There's no spilled dirt around the perfectly symmetrical, and every wall of it was like perfect. Like the dirt was not hammered away at or ripped away. This was precision, and they took the dirt with them. There's no sign of any vehicle
It's
being
part of
back there.
necromancy, isn't it? Taking the dirt.
I was just going to look that up. Go ahead.
Yeah.
And it was wild. And to my friend that was with me, I don't guess it was shocking to him, but where I grew up there, I'm like, no one could get back here. Why'd they take the dirt? And it just blew my mind. And then my best buddy Casey that I was talking about earlier, that's pulled me out of the gutter a few times. He doesn't remember this, but I finally convinced him to go look at the grave that has been robbed. And I called the attorney and said, hey, did you exhume your family? No. We ended up finding him in a marked grave in a different cemetery. So false alarm.
But isn't this like an ancient grave? Isn't this like
Yeah,
an
so-
old, like,
What he believed is, or what has been backed up now, there's been a survey done. There are some unmarked Civil War burial sites in an area that is located on a property that has a burial mound from a native tribe, and there was a coal mine underneath it that
and that's
collapsed and
all
killed some
at
people.
the same location?
All on the property that my parents live on.
Did you say it was Native American?
Yeah.
That's what they dug up?
You said it's a burial mound.
No,
Oh.
that there is what they have said is a burial mound that you don't dig on, and then there's filled full of artifacts and stuff. There was a rumor that back in the 70s, some I would think a Google search could probably put this to rest or not. But when I was a kid, people talked about how two of the archaeologists that came out to dig on a neighboring property ended up, everybody on the crew died like oddly and suddenly. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but so this piece of property that's got artifacts on it and Native American burial sites, supposedly, and it's also where somebody decided to set up a camp, and some people who died as a result of injuries in the Civil War, they got buried there too. And this attorney's ancestor apparently was there, but there was no tire marks. And he said that he didn't have anything to do with it. So I convinced my friend Casey to go out there and look at it and help me investigate. And when we go out there, it's filled back in. Not like it never happened. There's a mound of dirt on it, packed perfectly. There's no spillage of any of the dirt, and it's just barely over a little bit. And I looked at this grave a week ago. Now it's sunk in there a little bit, and it has a tree laying over it. But so there, I convinced him that somebody stole the body, exhumed the body, took the dirt with them, has now brought at least enough dirt back to fill it all back in, plus some.
They probably put a live body in it decomposed.
Yeah.
What?
I'd never thought of that.
So if it was a fresh body, that's why it sunk back, because it decomposed.
Oh.
I'd
So
never.
they just put they took ancestral burial dirt with them to then bury what, because you're talking about like witchcraft stuff.
Yeah,
This is really deep witchcraft stuff.
I guess so. So somebody took a body and they brought it back.
And they brought a different body back.
Oh,
They brought a fresh body back.
I'd never thought of that.
Oh, we need to go to that property.
I have
I don't want
access.
anything to, Jack's like, let me chime in right now.
No.
Oh, when I was a kid,
This is
one
with
time
Debo Mountain, right? This is,
we had
So-
I had a cousin that moved in with us to restart his life one time when I was a kid, and he got my bedroom. One night we got up to go to school and everything, and he's standing on the front porch, and we're like, "What is it?" And he said, "I'm not going back in that house." And we're like, "Why?" And he said that when he come out to get a drink of water, because he had my room as I slept on the couch, he said that there was a little girl standing beside of me watching me sleep, and he wasn't going back in the house. He was in his underwear and refused to even go in and get his stuff. He said, I saw a ghost. It was watching him sleep. I don't know if he was crazy or on something. Don't know. But then one night on Halloween, my mom's coming home from work. She was a jailer at the county jail, and she's coming in late. Me and my dad and brother are hiding behind the bend in a sectional couch to scare her. I'm probably 8, going to scare mommy when she come home. And right as she's opening the door, our big rainbow vacuum cleaner cuts on down the hallway and down the hallway all the way until the cord comes out of the wall, and then it hits the wall. And there was my light in my closet. It had a pull string on it. I used to sit and watch it spin. I'm saying all this stuff, but I'm also saying that for a point in my adult life, I didn't really believe in anything, but at the same time, something pulled me out of my bunk bed and slammed me on the ground when I was like 9.
I bet you became materialistic because it helped you cope with what you dealt with.
I got the night.
Could you scoot closer to the table?
Yes.
Thanks.
Is
This way.
No, come
Oh.
to the table. Yeah, there you
As
go.
strange
I'm watching you go off camera.
I've had to. My eyeballs are going to start floating in a minute. I've never had to hold it this long, and it's teaching me something. I'm like Zen master now. I can hold in. I can drink too much water and then take a trip on a plane perfectly. I've pushed the boundaries of what I can achieve today. But what were we talking about just before that?
I don't know, but let's just talk. I want to talk about this dirt stuff again because I'd like to bring up to Derek, who is my resident pastor. In the Bible, I can't pronounce his name, Naaman or something. Naaman. And, yeah, the guy from Syria who took dirt back with him to worship God. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't.
Yeah, you do. I'm just not describing it right. But there's a guy in the Bible who I think he was in Israel, and I think he had something to do. Okay, now I don't remember. It's something to do with Elijah, and he was healed, and so he wanted to take some of the dirt back, and I don't know if it was actually the dirt from the grave.
2 mule loads of earth to take back to Syria.
But was it from the grave itself, or was it Israel? Is the dirt from Israel to worship the God of Israel in his homeland? And while you look at that, my point is that in this scripture story, it also shows somebody taking dirt with them for religious ceremonial practices.
Well, yeah, I mean, so like with Elijah, when he's dead and his bones are like decayed, someone falls on his grave, and then he's like brought back to life because there's still like energy.
Is that what I'm referring to?
No, this is different. But I'm just saying like so if you're looking at it from the dark side of like how people would perceive that in the occult, the inversion of that is that there's still life in the blood. It's still poured out into the soil. Like their energy, like their body is still in the dirt. And so like in the aspect of like necromancy, they would probably want to harness that energy of the body back in.
Necromancy?
It's like it's dealing with like dead people and stuff
Like
and bones.
summoning the spirit of a dead person.
Yeah.
Which we're forbidden to do, biblically at least.
Biblically,
people
yeah.
still do it.
So 2 Kings 5:17 is the 2 dirt loads. So it says, "Please let your servant be given 2 mule loads of earth, for your servant will no longer offer burnt offerings or sacrifice to any god but the Lord."
Right, but somebody needs to look into the context of like what was the dirt from? Was it just from the land of Israel, or was it from like a grave or anything like that.
Okay.
You know, let us know in the chat because we haven't talked to the chat all day. Let us know in the chat. Let's get back to this experience, okay? Because we're drifting all over the place, and I want to bring it back to this because do you view the elements of what you experienced as an all-encompassing one experience, or a series of events that happen to you that are separate but just confined by a very close stitched time?
Well, I'm kind of on the fence. Either it's a simulation or and it's all about me, and it's just a string of events happening one after the next, or reality isn't at all what I thought it was, and this is all part of what has always existed, and I've not been privy to the spiritual aspect, and it's all connected. And once it seems like belief in it, it's like a placebo or something. Like if you don't believe in it, you can't see it or you can't experience it. So, but that doesn't make it fake. And I conditioned myself to not believe in anything because it was easier for me. My life changed when I was 7, and it's kind of corny, but have you ever heard of a movie called Repossessed? It was a comedy spoof of The Exorcist. It had Leslie Nielsen from Naked Gun played in it. It was a goof. It was a parody of The Exorcist, but I shouldn't have watched it at the age that I did. I am watching it without my parents' knowledge as they're watching it. I'm hiding behind them, looking out and I'm a kid. And they had a cousin that came over that night and watched it too. And once they caught me watching it, the cousin explained to me what was going on. They explained to me, no, see, that little girl has invited this demon into her, and it's the devil. The devil's inside of her. And I'm like, good thing that ain't real. Well, actually, this is real. When you tell somebody that age, like everything we've told you, that's all fake. There's no such thing as the boogeyman, but this monster is real. This one is. Terrified me. It changed my life. It's when my anxiety showed up. From that point on, that's when I started playing sports, because I felt like if playing basketball, I didn't have time to be afraid of demonic possession. And I had to come up with little rituals and things that I would say to just take control of my intrusive thoughts of, I was terrified of being demonic, being possessed. And later on in life, I just got to a point to where I had pushed all that out, and I was happy to not believe in anything again. It sucked when I went and saw scary movies because I didn't believe in anything and couldn't really get into it, but it was a safe space. I didn't have to worry about demonic possession if none of that's real. That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. So, now I'm losing my train of thought. All right, so my question to you was how you view the experience, if it's an all-encompassing one experience over a series of days, or if it's split up. And you were talking about the supernatural versus Matrix. From my perspective, obviously, my perspective is well published and established. I do believe that what you were exposed to is another part of reality that you were taught to not understand and not believe was real.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
And the reality is there's a lot of people who experience similar things that you experienced. And I think there's more than people realize. It's just, for the most part, it's been taboo, and you can't talk about these things. You shouldn't be talking about it. That's how society and culture is established. I mean, that's why you kind of got suckered by a customer,
Yeah.
And it's like, and that kind of experience for you individually probably makes you clam up, I ain't talking about this no more ever again. And likewise for people maybe even viewing this right now, like it's for them, it's like, oh, well, if that happened to him, I certainly won't do that at work. I won't. And there's a lot of people that like that. They go through these supernatural experiences and they just keep it to themselves. So and I've learned this a long time ago. I mean, I've been doing this for nearly a decade now. As crazy as experiences can be, you don't push them aside and say, because I can't fathom it, it can't be real. And there are, when you start looking, and like I said, I think I said this earlier actually in this episode, when you start looking at everything that you went through and what you saw, heard, sensed, missing time, all that, when you start looking at it as individual phenomenons that are part of one larger phenomenon, it kind of helps understand how it could even be possible for you individually. Forget everybody else. Whatever the bipedal creature was probably part of the same house as the light in the sky.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, that the screaming banshee that screamed in your face that your dad heard. So like you can walk away from this crazy event knowing that what you remember, what you experienced, and knowing that there are pieces of that event that people shared with you. Your wife experienced the walking up to you. Your dad experienced the scream.
Yeah.
I forget who it was, but several people saw the owls coming, right? So like, that you experienced something. Defining what that is the hard part for a lot of people. And for me, and hearing what you had here, it's like it's like you were targeted. It does feel like that.
Kind of felt that way to me.
When you're coming onto a property that maybe is spiritually charged, and you're in the state that you were in, in the spiritual, when there's, for what I believe and how I view this stuff, when there's an enemy that is always looking for a foot in the door to drive you mad, to bring chaos into your life, to enhance chaos in your life, you were a pretty prime target, and you went into a charged area as a prime target, and the area responded to you. That's how it feels to me hearing your experience, because like it wasn't like when you first went up there and stuff, like it seems like there was a lot of uncertainty in life.
Yeah.
And then there was added uncertainty even on the social level. You weren't sure if your parents wanted you there. There's a level, or the house that fell through. And as a man, we can all relate. It's like you want to be the provider, the protector. You want to do your quote unquote husbandly, fatherly roles. And now you're doing a new career, stressed out of your mind about that, not sure how you're going to get gas. Parents don't want you there. The house you had for your family fell through, so now you have to go back underneath mom and dad's roof, and they don't want you there. Like there's a lot of stuff building up there. And the way you described the building of the treehouse, that could easily be something that is disconnected in my mind as much as connected. So one could say he was called into the woods to build this treehouse, so he would be in the environment and have these experiences. Or you're a dude and you needed a distraction, and you're just like, I'm going to do something irrational because my life right now feels very irrational, and I'm just going to go and build a treehouse. And the charged property that was around you took advantage of the fact that you were isolating yourself in that moment. Isolation's another big thing.
One thing I want to say, this may be a great regret of my life, but if I don't say something, it definitely will be. I've reached my limit on how long I can hold without. I need to go to the restroom right quick, and you guys talk amongst yourselves.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
It's like
we will see.
The option's going to be taken from me.
I got you. So while he's using the restroom and basically what happened was he didn't want to hear what I had to say. So
Do you think he was like drawn? Because when I hear his story, it almost seems like he was drawn back to his property of his youth.
I mean, maybe I don't know. I don't really, for me personally, and who knows, but for me, it just seems like he had a lot of crap going on in life, and it was. I hate to say the word coincidental. I know we've said it probably a lot on this show, but it's like maybe, but it could easily just be that maybe you might be right. I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, just listening to it, it almost just seems like there's something that drew him back because he lived there when he was young.
I mean, if there's outside forces at play and operating where he all right, so let's just go with that for a second. If I forget where he said he was at before he moved back for the job, but if he's wherever he's at initially, if it all starts there and the job opens up and it seems supernatural, the fact that when he arrived, it seemed like nobody knew he was going to be there or wanted him there, maybe there was things that were orchestrating the events at play to get him back to the property and keep him there, if that's what you're suggesting.
And then just the building, like to build something on a sacred site, to me feels like he's building something for the sacred site.
Interesting.
Like unintentionally.
When he gets back, we should ask him if he ever finished the treehouse.
Yeah, because just being where it is and being such a charged area, if it is an actual Indian burial, because we've had that discussion too. You know, this is where possibly the Nephilim are buried in these mounds, you know, around America. And
there's Nephilim in America?
And we've always, you know, thought possibly, at least me, that, you know, these entities like Dogman or whatever, they guard the burial areas. It always comes up with graveyards, ancient graveyards, the connection between like Dogman and these areas. So to have supernatural occurrences on a burial mound is not shocking at all.
No, not at all. You know, it's funny because of all my travels around the world as an explorer, I don't believe that I ever had a experience where I knew I was near or on a burial mound. And there's supposedly so many.
There's a lot.
And so I don't know if it's one of those things where you just don't recognize them or what. But the property definitely seems interesting. And I wanted to ask you, did you ever actually finish the treehouse?
That's interesting because I realized it wasn't a treehouse. And thank you, by the way, for forgiving me there for a second. I should be able to talk a little bit more clearly without thinking about how I was getting ready to embarrass myself. I was building an altar.
Let me just tell you something real quick.
Whoa. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
What were you going to say?
No, go ahead. Finish.
Oh. Before you get into the altar.
I was right.
I had to speak at a conference, and I don't get nervous speaking at conferences. And I wasn't nervous at this conference. I don't think I was. Maybe I was. But there's about 2,000 people there, and maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was nerve-wracking. I don't know. But I had to pee so bad. So I go into the bathroom and I pee, and I'm like 5 minutes before going. They're like, "Where's Tony?" That kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
And as soon as I walk out of the bathroom, I had to go back in and pee again. and then I go pee, and then I go and I'm standing behind the stage, and they're warming up, bring me up, and I have to pee again.
It must have been important what you had to say.
It's just Bigfoot talk. And I'm standing on stage, and for about the first 5 to 10 minutes, I thought I was going to pee myself in front of everybody. And then finally the feeling went away. It was nerves. But so anyways, I just wanted to make...
Can I just ask, so like when I'm hearing...
We will get back to the altar. Don't worry.
When I'm hearing your story, I just feel like you're summoned and drawn back to your family land is how I'm envisioning this like push of you. It makes no rational sense, and yet you're having all these things occur as soon as you get to that property. And then when you're building this basically on old bones, you're building this structure. In my mind, I was thinking altar. I was thinking you're building something for this entity that is on this property.
I remember when I told my wife, because it moved. Okay, when we quit staying with my parents and I got my grandparents' house livable and we moved down there, I started on another one. I started building another one that is
Another treehouse?
another tree house that is 200 yards away from that one. I started building another one, and I would go into work in an office business setting at this time. I got in the best shape of my life. It was like Rocky IV, where I just spent my winter in a blizzard cutting logs and like packing trees and building this and hammering and sweating and building fires. And then until 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I would get up and go work in my office job as a sales manager at a car dealership, and then get off work, changing my coveralls and the truck, go back at it and just building and building. And I got in incredible shape, and I broke myself down physically. And I was going through in my mind, I wasn't thinking about the light in the sky or the scream or anything. I was thinking about my wife. I was thinking about my kids. Like, I pulled them away from all their friends. Those are the things that were consuming me. Me and my wife were not getting along at all, because of how terrible everything had gone. And I told her, I realized I'm not building a tree house, because the kids didn't care. They were just saying yay about the tree house to encourage me, because they thought it was important for me if they liked it. I said, I'm building an altar. And she said, for what? And it never occurred to me that it could be for somebody else, or something else other than me. So what I said, sometimes there's things that I'll hang on to that I know are bad. I know it's inviting something dark or demonic around my family. Why do I lie? Why do I hide this? It's a secret. But in my mind, I'm like, everybody's got this same secret, and everybody does this, and it's normal. And really, it's just I'm hiding a sin that I won't let go of, and I've justified it in every possible way. And then I decided to lay those sins at that altar. Just like make all of this, no matter what any intent someone else had to summon me there and build it, I decided what it was going to be built for, and I was going to hang these things up on it, and I was going to use it for that. And that this land that I was on, instead of it being a curse, I was going to bless it. I was going to do what my grandfather started. I'm going to clean it up, because it started as this beautiful Garden of Eden, and today it looks like the back cover of a horror novel. Like everything's dead. No living vegetation. Everything is like curled over and black and foggy. It used to be high tree cover, and now it's like just open sky, but it's all like foggy, dead, dark, mossy,
We had Dr. Laura Sanger on, and when we were actually doing our prayer reconnaissance, that they mentioned that is something specifically they look and feel for, like spiritual strongholds in areas where the trees are gnarled, where there is like nodding, where there's like really overgrown, where there's death, where things don't grow, and they recognize it as something being very spiritually heavy in that area.
Wow. And it made sense to me, and even my wife. Like, it looks like a place that should be haunted. It's just dark looking, and so yeah, that's good to know. But I feel like the moment that I started blessing the land, like every night I build a fire. I still do that. When I go home tonight, at some point, I'll build a fire outside. It's part of like it. It's a symbol that a successful day has happened. We lived. Everybody's here. We're all alive. We're all healthy. So let's have as a fire. We might roast a marshmallow. We might not. But at this time, I'm building a fire outside. I learned to embrace my brother being there and figure out a way to love him and help him get his life together in certain ways, which he has done. He's done great. I'm proud of him. And, and the world counted him out too. And I was able to be a good example for my big brother, for a period in life, and he still lives in the house, and he's fixed the place up. He's got it looking nice, and I started restoring that land, and things started getting better. Like I started planting things, and crazy as it sounds, even talking to it, just talking to the land itself, and letting it know that I was going to restore it the best I could to the way that my grandfather kept it, because it seemed to love him. When he died, it died. And he was the one that was Cherokee. And things turned around. I mean, I made a decision to take care of that land. And 3 days later, a guy walks up to my desk and says, "Are you Nick?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Follow me." "Where are we going?" He said, "I want to show you my house." I said, "Your house?" He said, "Your house. I got this across the street, the house on the corner." I said, "Yeah." He said, "It's mine, and I'd like to rent it to you." Now, before this, I had 4 months of turn down. I didn't know why no one would rent to me. When I left Knoxville to go to Kentucky, the guy said, "Return to me both keys. By this date, you don't owe me anything. But if you don't have me the keys in this office by that date, you're going to owe this month," which was $3,500 a month is what I was paying for rent, and half of next month if the keys aren't back. Okay. When I made the last trip, I give the keys to my wife. She turned around to a friend and said, "Hey, are you going to the office tomorrow?" She said, "Yep." She said, "Will you drop these off?" "Sure will." She didn't. I didn't know it. I had one house. They said my family loved it. "We're finally going to move off this haunted hill, and we found a house this woman's going to rent to us, and it's beautiful, and it's 5 blocks away from my work." And she says, "Are your children there? Your wife?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Put me on speakerphone." I said, "Okay." She said, "We've decided to rent you the house." We did all of this. 3 days later, she called and pulled the rug out from under me. After my daughter's already picking out her new room stuff she's going to get, and they hated it on that hill. Why wouldn't they? I mean, it just a darkness had a hold of my family for this period in life while I lost everything. And no friends. There were people along the way that showed me kindness that I'll forever be grateful to them. And they know who they are. If they're listening to this, they're probably cracking up that I'm actually this crazy story that I come to work telling. Now I'm telling it in front of everybody. But there are people that, and it's not always the people that I thought it would be. Like some people, blindsided me with this absolute kindness, and to just believe me, just let me know that they could see that I was doing the right thing. I got put in these scenarios to where it's like I can do the wrong thing, I can cheat people, and I can be on top. I can have 50 grand in my bank account by the end of the month. I can do all these things and get out of this. But if I do the right thing, I'm going to be stuck in this hell a little longer. But I chose the right thing. And, it just started all happening. So I'm living in the house from hell, and then I make the decision to lay my sin down at that altar and restore that land to its former glory. And 3 days later, I'm sitting at my office at work watching my kids play in my backyard. Like that quick, that much, that dramatic. That's why I'm happy about some of the chaos, because I couldn't have put that together either. And then even I don't work there anymore. And now I work in Knoxville. So there's a story that goes on with that I ain't going to get into. But, it got dark again. And just when I thought life was back to normal, here I have been put in this confusing state to where it seems like nobody likes me. I'm just a crazy guy talking about werewolves to customers, and they're reporting me. and my performance at the job started lacking, but I just tried real hard to correct my mistakes and be kind to them and be a good employee until I got myself back together and gained my footing. And now everything is lining out, and spirits are up in the house, and the things that I feared that I lost like my relationship with my kids. They saw me act a fool, and I promised a lot of things, and I didn't deliver on a lot of them. Not only did I not deliver on what I promised, but I ended up taking them to the place that I swore I'd never return to, putting them around things that I wish they'd never seen or been around. But while doing it, I didn't blame anybody else, and I was still doing the next right thing in front of me to do, no matter what. And and I feel like I beat it. Like whatever it was that lured me on that hill, like we fought and I won. And this is the part that I tend to lose most of the people on that think I'm a little baddie. Since then, I've been able to do things that don't quite make sense to me. Like a guy brought a piece of fence in. He handed it to me. It had a lock on it. I said, "What is that?" He said, "I just bought this lock and I ain't cutting it. I forgot the combination, and I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to get a stethoscope and see, or if I'm going to look on YouTube and see how I can pick it and get it open, relearn the combination. Unless you want to try it." And he hands it to me, and a number popped in my head, and I put it in, and the lock popped right off. He said, "How'd you do that?" And I don't know. Just a number popped in my head. And it felt like the number popped in my head the same way the go back popped in my head, like it was a thought that wasn't mine. So then throughout my day, I started like recognizing when thoughts were something that there was a clear trail of how I got there, or how something was just kind of out of the blue. And I started recording those things and writing them down. I've got tons of notes everywhere. And as I would write them down, some of the things that I would make a note to 2 weeks later would make sense by something that happened in the news. So I went down the rabbit hole on Joe McMonagle. And I since changed my view. At first, I was excited, like, "Oh, remote viewing's a real thing." Then the telepathy tapes came out. Are you familiar with the telepathy tapes?
Got an episode next week. We're focusing on it.
Oh, so I listened to it the first time, and I'm excited. I call everybody. Look, and just in case you were wondering, it's real. Here's the proof. This isn't magic. The test, this is proof. This is Harvard tenured people with credentials saying it's real. And I still believe all of that, but I think some people may be playing with something that they don't understand what they're playing with, and inviting things in that feel like I've fought before, not going to give it another way into my house. But I had the night I listened to the telepathy tapes, I had a dream. And when I was in kindergarten, there was a kid named Chris. I won't say his last name, but I don't imagine he's alive. But I don't know what his condition was, but he was in a wheelchair and he couldn't talk. And it was a bright yellow wheelchair, and he was always grinning from ear to ear. And I could talk nonstop without anybody talking back. He was the perfect best friend. He was just smiling from ear to ear, and I just got to talk. So it was perfect. So one day I tell the teacher's aide, Dee Dee, I said, "Dee Dee, Chris wants to know what it feels like to walk. When all the other kids go outside, can you hold him up and can we walk him down the hallway?" And she said, "Sure, we'd love to do that." And so we did that. And I would just kind of walked in front of him and walked backwards and encouraged him, and she walked him. And, he wasn't walking. She was obvious doing the work and everything. And when it was over, I had forgot that she said, "Nick, how did you know he wanted to do that?" And I said, "Because he told me." And she said, "Well, sweetie, he can't talk. And he couldn't communicate. He had no method he couldn't write anything down or anything like that." But I saw the telepathy tapes, and it put him in my mind. And that night I went to sleep, and I had a dream. And in my dream, a well-bodied, able-bodied, I guess would be the proper term, man who didn't look like anybody I knew was there. But in the dream, I had this knowing that it was him. And I still haven't done this, but he told me in this dream, if I'd go back and get the video of the light that I recorded in the sky and trace out all of its movements as though it was drawing something, that something would be revealed to me. And I just don't know how to go about doing that. I don't know how to take the film of the video and like trace everywhere that the light in the sky went. But that's what he told me in the dream. And I woke up and turned my alarm off and then looked at my notifications, and I had a Facebook friend request from somebody with his exact name. The profile had no friends, no photos, nothing. And matter of fact, searching it, never been able to find it before. It was just his name and a friend request. And when you clicked on him, nothing led anywhere. And that was the next morning. So I screenshotted that. I have that. And it blew my mind because it reminded me of the place they talk about, the hill. I felt like I went to the hill.
They say that, without spoiling next week's episode, they do say that when I say they, the autistic kids say that there will be people that go to the hill that don't belong there. And so according to them, somehow, some way, at times people wind up at the hill that don't belong there. They're not autistic.
Like they've been brought there, or?
Well, sure. I think there's many different ways to look at it, but I definitely think that my sense is that I'm trying to think of how I'm going to say this so I don't want to derail the conversation, but the way I'm looking at it, I think that there are ways to access the hill, and I think at times there are human agents that are sent to the hill in place of the ones giving the directions. Because the hill is, I've never listened to the telepathy tapes. I talked to Joseph and Franco, he's a pastor who has spent a lot of time with one of these kids. Well, several of the kids, but the one is named Cody. He called the book Decoding Cody. And we actually have it in our library on slingshotlibrary.com. And the way Cody describes this, the people don't belong there. And I get the sense, because with what Cody said about the hill being where Jesus is meeting these kids, why are you giving them more water? Derek being over hospitable. He's got to pee again.
That whole episode where I had to go the entire time has made it into my story. The restraint I had to hold to keep it together and be able to talk while feeling that way, I achieved something great there.
Good. So, but because Cody is saying the hill is where they meet with Jesus, and they're able to operate with bodies that don't have any handicap.
Yeah.
Because the presence of God's there, I wonder if it's a place that is of interest to fallen entities, but they can't go themselves, so they send human agents.
Other people, yeah.
So, anyways, I don't know.
Well, that's a bummer. I mean, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
But I'm not saying you were sent.
Yeah,
I'm not saying you were sent by a fallen entity.
I have to at least entertain that.
Well, or no, because I think there could also be people who stumble into. Okay, so I don't think that it's either Jesus brings you or Satan himself brings you.
Yeah.
I think that there could be situations where people stumble into it. Judging by your experiences, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to make a say on any one way or the other. But anyways, are you saying you went to the hill? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying I had a dream that seemed a little real. And in that dream, I did sense that I was at the place I'd heard about called The Hill. And it could just be because I was fresh, heard that podcast, and had Chris on my mind. And for some reason, my brain constructed this able-bodied person. Or I would also like to keep open the possibility that I may have very well went to The Hill. And maybe that was an agent pretending to be my friend Chris for nefarious purposes. Because we used the term glitter earlier.
Yeah.
Because those things, like the people that do the watch parties, and then I had an experience when I was trying to use the gateway method. I got the analysis and assessment of the gateway process from the CIA's reading room, and I put in the headphones and doing the thing. And I'm at the house that my grandparents died in, and I'm in a room that has a deadbolt lock. It is key only from the outside and a twist knob, no door handle or knob on it on the inside. And I'm laying there trying to get into this state, and I realize I have to pee. So I thought, I better get up or it's just going to keep knocking me out of this. I'm not going to be able to achieve it. So I get up and twist the lock open, and a cat that we have, 2 house cats, one of them pushed the door open and ran by me, and I followed it and watched it run by me, and it jumped up on the bed and on my chest because I was still laying on the bed. And I saw myself laying on the bed with the cat, and it freaked me out, and I opened my eyes, and I'm laying on the bed, and the cat's on my chest. But how did the door get open if I didn't get up and open it? The only key to get in from the outside is in my pocket. So I've yet to be able to wrap my mind around how that's even possible. Like, was that a mixing of 2 timelines? It breaks my brain to try to think of how that's possible that I do that. Like, how did the door get open? And another time, same week, I was practicing that. I was able to confirm a text that my wife had sent. I was looking over her shoulder while I was taking a nap in the other room, and I read a text and then and the time and everything, and nailed it when I came out. So, but I started getting the sense that if I was practicing these things or doing this, that it was somehow opening up some other realm to me, that it might be a door that I might not be able to control what came in and what went out of whatever door that I may have opened.
It's a very logical conclusion.
Which terrifies me to think about, because my children's safety and my wife are the only things that matter. That's why nothing really bothers me or shakes me. You know, I've got a bunch of crazy story of things that happened to me. Like, I'm they say Forrest Gump and Joe Dirt, but I like to say Cousin Eddie and Clark Griswold. Like, I've got the Clark Griswold luck with the Cousin Eddie life. It just things breaking one thing after the next, and but been able to maintain a good attitude about it all. But I don't want to open any doorways. It's going to subject my kids to anything, and it's hard for me because I take certain compounds that hinder REM sleep, and the only reason I continue to take the medicine is because it does that. And when I quit taking it, there's a rebound effect. And when I go to sleep without having any of the medicine in me, it's like my eyes close on this side and they open on the other. It's complete lucidity, and if that's a word. And you know, at first I would fly and, you know, things were fun. On one lucid dream, I was able to take my son and show him the hill when it was still alive, and let him see when me and all my aunts, uncles, cousins, and parents and brother were all playing wiffle ball out in the yard, sharing watermelon that we'd grown in the garden, and fun times before the hill died. And, you know, it felt real, but then again, I'm afraid that when I'm in lucid dreaming, that it's making me vulnerable to something that I don't really understand. So I try not to do it. So before I go to sleep, I take things that will hinder my sleep. That will
Let me ask you a question about that. How long have you been taking the compounds, roughly?
8 years.
Before the 8 years, were you still having these lucid dreams?
No, I'd never had a lucid dream to my knowledge until whatever happened.
So this event triggered the lucid dreams.
It feels like it opened me up to by like the ontological shock, opened me up to believing things that believing in them have caused them to occur. Like, I thought that lucid dreaming before was just a very vivid dream that felt real. And then after the experience, I've been able to gather information while lucid dreaming that has been confirmed afterwards.
You're telling me you gathered information that was proven to be right on this waking side?
Yes.
All right, I just need you to answer these as plainly as possible for me so we can work this timeline out. Are you taking the medication first and then you had these experiences, or did you have these experiences and then...
I got you.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I need to know...
I was taking the medicine, and then by a series of unfortunate events, found my life in such a state that I could no longer gain access to the medicine and was forced to go off.
Gotcha.
It was in the going off is when it happens.
Okay. So you were on the medicine, you're off the medicine, this happens.
Yeah.
How far from the time that this happened, from the time you were off the medicine to the time that this happened? Weeks, months, years? Was it, what was this gap of you not having the medicine when this started?
Me not having the medicine was, all of this has already happened. I'm living at my grandparents' old house, still kind of in the chaos. I'm still building the altar, and I run out of meds.
So the attack, I hate to project my own opinion on this, but this incident started technically before
I was ever off the meds. Yeah. Now, not the meds I talked about earlier that I had made a decision to stop and get off of, 2 different periods in life. So I was on SSRIs early in my marriage, and then went through a change, and then later got on ADHD meds that I didn't realize was suppressing REM sleep.
Okay, so you got to bear with me on this. You're saying this event initially, because it was a little bit of a period of time, initially started, and then you got off the meds that you are on now to keep you from the REM sleep, or REM.
Oh yeah.
REM.
Yeah, I can see now that I have.
I'm trying to get this
painted a
timeline
confusing
right.
web. Yeah, okay, this sort of cleared up. So, I didn't get all the way off of them. I'm experiencing all of this stuff, and I'm on. I was taking a dose of Adderall. I was taking it the entire time, and I hadn't experienced any kind of lucid dreaming or anything like that. And part of me thinks it may have been psychosomatic at first, because I watched an episode of Chris Ramsey, I believe his name, Area 52, and he had talked about how he had his first out-of-body experience after stopping the use of marijuana and SSRI, and he took a melatonin gummy, and that night had his first out-of-body because of the rebound effect. So REM sleep, it suppresses a chemical, I can't remember the name of it, but it waits, and then you're blocking it out with whatever you're taking, blocks it, but it builds up. This chemical builds up, and then whenever you stop taking that drug, all of that floods back in and causes lucid dreaming, this rebound effect. And so it was immediate. So like the first day I went without my meds, that night I was in Narnia in my dreams. You know, it was off to the races.
And was that night before or after this started?
After.
After.
Yes.
So this started then first night.
Yeah.
And how close in time from the time that this started to the first night that you go off the meds?
A month and a half.
So it's a pretty confined set of time here.
Yeah. By this time, I was a mountain man. You know, I'd built 2 tree houses / altars. I was
when you were off the meds, and you were having this lucid dreaming experiences, and
I still do it from
you're
time
able
to
to
time.
collect information that was found to be true here on this side of the waking world. I think that there's something there. And what caused you to go off the medication?
Chaos. Essentially, I think at this point in my life, the job thing I took that job in Kentucky. Like I said, no one there liked me. And I had another one that seemed divine calling me, trying to recruit me. I'm fairly decent at what I do. So every now and then I'll get a phone call from somebody who wants me to come do it for them. And I'd gotten another one of those calls, and nobody liked me at this place anyway, but I just pulled my kids away, and I wanted to get out. I wanted to get back in Tennessee, to be honest with you. So I think in the chaos of it all, I overtook my meds and ran out early, which forced me, before the month was out, to get more to do without.
Did you ever feel like there was something? I know we have imagery behind me that you can refer to, so let's just take that out of your mind. Have you ever felt like there was a force that almost wanted you to not be on the meds?
100%. I still do. I talk about that a lot with my wife. So I have a plan in place, and I do now medication vacations. So I get 2 days off every other week, back to back. Like today's one of them. I was off yesterday, and I'm off today. And in those times, I try not to take any medicine, and I try to rest and sleep and heal and let my brain recover. I don't want to be on anything long term, and I don't want to be a slave to anything. And if originally when I got on it, it was part of a plan to pull my family up out and achieve great things in life, but it became something I couldn't stop feeding, like a monster in itself, to where I had to be honest about the fact, am I taking these? Am I depending on them? Who's driving? Am I driving, or are they driving? And I don't feel like it's in God's will for me to take anything. And if something is calling me to take these drugs, it is not wanting me to have the experiences that I have when I get off of them. So to me, if I'm being honest, it feels like there's a dark force that wants to keep me on the meds, and I feel God pulling me off of them. And when I do get off of them, I do seem to have experiences that seem divine. And we call it a download. There'll be things that my wife and I will struggle with for years. And then when I get home from work at night, I normally get straight to building a fire and just trying to recoup and heal for the day. And I'll get a download, and I'll go and tell her I figured it out. It came to me. And when I'm not on meds, I get what I call downloads of information. And when I apply the information, it seems to have an impact on my life in a very positive, beneficial way. That I don't think the information would have been given to me had I been on the medicine. That makes sense. So, or I could be making all that up. I also think about that. Like, maybe I'm just overthinking it. Of course, you don't need to be on pharmaceuticals. Keep it that simple. And just the rebound effect of going off of them is sometimes terrifying and very vivid dreaming. Sometimes it's easier to just be a materialist and think that we're just worm food. None of this means anything. But even in that realm, I don't believe that pharmaceutical route is the proper route. It doesn't feel natural, or like it would be God's will for me to be dependent upon a medicine that keeps me from thinking a way that it may be beneficial for me to think.
So we're going to start bringing this in for a landing, because we've been almost 3 hours into this, and I got a meeting in 30 minutes. But I feel like that you are. I think that there's some kind of targeting on you, and I don't know how current and strong it is right now in your life, but the story that you shared about that property, and then these experiences, and I mean, I'll just say it, these other realm experiences, it just feels like that property switched something on. Feels like it's something switched on in there, and I don't know, man. I'm having a hard time compartmentalizing and understanding everything, but it feels like that what you're experiencing now just seems to stem back to that property.
Yeah. And there's a lot more that we just don't have time to cover today. And the reason I say it's still ongoing, because what you're talking about, I feel, I sense there's something bigger going on. And daily, me and my wife talked about, since the owls is what she says, since the owls, this has gone a certain way. And she believes, and she's very encouraging, and I believe too, that it's all for the greater good. You know, at the same time, it feels like to me the entire world's been talking about some sort of awakening happening, and all this stuff's coming to light, from the Epstein files to UAP disclosure, all these things coming to meet at this, and it's in perfect timing. I feel like.
Can I ask one quick question?
Mhm.
Is there more Native Americans that live in that area?
Not to my knowledge.
Not to your knowledge.
Just the ones that come back yearly to the Daniel Boone Festival and celebrate, that town, the signing of the Cane Treaty. And, but I've never met any of my grandfather's family either, really, that I can think of. But I do know, I never heard him talk about his heritage, but you could look at him and see it, and everyone knew it. I used to think about how can I get some of that,
Casino money?
Yeah, people taking advantage of getting the casino money. Like I have had customers before that I do their credit app, and they're making 10 or 15 grand a week. I'm like, what do you do? Oh, it's casino royalties, and they look like me. I'm like, from what? And they're like, I'm Native American. I'm like, what?
Me too. Let me get some of that.
Yeah, you're redheaded. How does that work? But but it's fascinating to me. But I will say this: the TVA property that's forbidden. My grandpa was able to take me rabbit hunting there. Like when he pulled his little truck up to the gate, he would turn off the ignition, and we would sit there for a minute. And then the gate would open up, and he would start up the truck and drive
The gate
through
would
it.
open up like it's an automatic gate?
Yeah.
So he had access to it.
I always felt like somebody was watching and saw that it was him and let us in. Somebody, whoever's controlling the gate, but he could come and go as he pleased.
Was there any kind of development around the property other than the gate?
No.
So no building?
A guard
cameras?
house. Yeah, there was a guard shack. But it didn't look like I don't remember it having windows or anything to see out of. But
why do you say it's forbidden?
Just it's fenced off, and if you go on the property, people will come by Humvee or four-wheeler or something with guns and escort you off the property.
What kind of people?
Military.
So there are properties here in Tennessee that have similar things that aren't labeled TVA, but if you go into certain areas, people pop up, and and that was in Kentucky?
Yeah.
It's across the street from the house.
Yeah. Ah, man.
There's layers.
So there's so many layers to this. Thank you. That's the word. There's so many layers to this. But I mean, I think what you experienced is probably just a fraction of what's actually happening around you. And it's probably what's actually driving the confusion, because you don't see the full picture.
Yeah.
I think this is very layered. The TVA property, how big is it?
You had it pulled up there. You want to show? Or do you still have it?
It's a big section along a river.
Several fields around. We've got a river.
Of course.
And Yeah, they used it to practice army, do their weekend warriors, do their drills. The National Guard come out and do their drills.
Weekend warriors. It sounded
Don't
with your
say
accent.
Wiccan warriors.
With your accent, it sounded like you
Yeah.
said Wiccan.
Yeah.
Wiccan warriors.
Oh, if I were to be talking,
Change the name of the show, Jack.
if my dad and brother were to be here right now and you let us loose on a conversation, within 10 minutes, we're going to melt into this Appalachian dialect that you probably couldn't understand.
Yeah.
My wife struggles with it sometimes. But,
Where's your wife from?
She is from the Detroit area. She spent the formative years outside of Nashville, high school years, but she's from Detroit, Wyandotte, Michigan. But she's a Yankee.
Yeah, north of the Mason-Dixon.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna bring this in for a landing. I too have to urinate, and I don't like getting up during the middle of my show. I appreciate everybody who's tuning in. Last I saw, we were pushing almost 1,000 people watching live at one point. So
I'm gonna try not to go cry myself to sleep for sounding like an idiot and being so nervous, and then having to pee the entire time.
You're fine. You're fine. Like you have a lot going through your mind on this stuff, clearly, and in the beginning, I felt I'm glad I interjected and got us going on this story because it felt like your nerves were kind of taken over in the moment.
They were,
and so
and I didn't sleep last night. That didn't help. I was so nervous about being here; it kept me awake, literally.
Totally. I think you did fine, man. I really do. I think that there's definitely more going on than what we have covered today, and probably, like I said, than you even know. But
I may go back to that property tonight. Actually, I'm thinking about going to visit my parents. But the lawyer that asked about the body to exhume, he has bought the property. He now owns the property that the grave is on, and has bulldozed a lot of it. He's building homes and stuff on it.
Oh boy.
But
That's how Poltergeist started.
Probably.
I had in my mind that maybe he knew something that I didn't, and it wasn't a body. He was looking for some sort of artifact, and he's wealthy and had money, and maybe he bought the property.
Southeast Kentucky, there is a lot of mysterious things, a lot of artifacts to be found, and this is going to sound corny, and definitely not what I'm trying to push, but I don't know how else to say it. It's a very magical place. And I don't mean that in the most positive way. You mentioned Narnia.
Yeah.
At times when I've spent time in Kentucky, I felt like I was in another land,
Yeah.
I was somewhere else that wasn't America. It wasn't even Kentucky. And so anyways, listen, I appreciate everybody tuning in to this different Slingshot Nation Live. But like I said in the beginning, we overbooked our schedule. And so we had to make a shift, a pivot, and I was grateful that Nick was willing to pivot with us and come in and kind of make this hybrid show. Some housekeeping things real quick. We didn't mention in the beginning, but we want to just let people know that joining our membership community allows us to do this extra show. And so if you can just continue to, if you're a member, continue being a member and enjoying the extra content. And if it's something that you've been kind of thinking about, we have hundreds of member episodes waiting for you. If you just hit the join button, become a member, and help support the show a little bit, that'd be awesome. And also merkmerch.com. I got a t-shirt for you. I was going to bring them in to let you choose which one you want. And I still will, but I forgot to bring them in. I was going to, I wasn't sure which one. I wasn't sure if he would want the always on the hunt Bigfoot shirt, if he would want the going off. We have the Lichen Pack t-shirt that's not going to be available soon. But I was thinking, he looks like a it gets weird guy.
Yeah. I saw that today. I was looking at your YouTube channel, and I saw that shirt, and I was like,
it gets
like
weird.
that.
That's
Yeah.
yours.
It
Then.
gets weird.
Yeah.
It's out in the hallway. We'll get it to you. But
That's so funny.
I really appreciate everybody watching the live today and tuning in. We're very grateful for the people that do consume the content and think that what we talk about is worth listening to. So thank you very much. And next week we're not sure what we're doing for the live next week. We'll figure it out. Our schedule got crazy, but we will make sure something happens. So
I could schedule a camping trip.
yeah. Well, unfortunately, we are. I don't even know if we're gonna be I don't know where we're gonna be. I don't
Here,
think
there, and everywhere.
Yeah, I was. What I do know where we're gonna go. I just wasn't sure if I was allowed to say it. So we're just gonna let it be. Love you guys. I'll see you next week.
Oh boy, is that Slingshot?
Yeah. Slingshot season. Hey, let's run it. Hey. Grace hit me like boom. Can't miss, no. God with me, whole squad gon' win. Devil try to throw shade. I grin cause the light too bright where I've been.